Have you ever noticed how life sometimes feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill? You strive, you hustle, you push yourself to achieve more, but the satisfaction never seems to last. The next day, it's back to climbing again, the weight heavier than before. The problem isn't that you're weak or unmotivated, it's that modern culture has taught us to see life as a race to the finish, to chase perfection, to find meaning in external validation. We've forgotten the profound lessons that older, wiser traditions can teach us, especially those born in a place where simplicity, honor, and purpose are the guiding stars, Japan. Japanese philosophy doesn't promise quick fixes or easy answers. Instead, it offers gentle yet powerful wisdom to radically change the way we approach life itself. It teaches us to embrace gradual, continuous improvement rather than immediate perfection. Instead of exhausting ourselves by trying to change everything overnight, we adopt a mindset of small daily steps, just 1% better each day. This incremental progress, known as Kaizen, transforms life from a battle into a steady, graceful dance. Then there is the timeless path of Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary Ronin who walked alone, sword in hand, accountable to no master but himself. Musashi's philosophy urges us to value solitude and independence, not as isolation, but as a path towards self-awareness and strength. When we dare to walk alone, free from society's expectations, we discover who we truly are. The quiet courage to stand apart isn't loneliness, it's freedom. Yet life isn't just about discipline and strength, it's also about embracing imperfections. Wabi Sabi, the Japanese philosophy of perfect imperfection, teaches us to find beauty not in flawlessness, but in authenticity. Cracks, scars, and asymmetry aren't weaknesses, they're badges of experience and growth. When we accept life's imperfections, including our own, we stop striving for a fantasy and start enjoying reality, fully present in each imperfectly perfect moment. Finally, amidst the noise and uncertainty, we yearn for purpose, something meaningful to anchor us in life's storms. Ikigai is that anchor. This philosophy guides us to our personal reason for being, the intersection of what we love, what we're good at, what the world needs, and what fulfills us. When we find our Ikigai, life gains depth and direction. We don't merely exist, we live with passion, purpose, and fulfillment. Imagine for a moment adopting these 4 philosophies as your guides. Picture yourself stepping away from the endless pursuit of perfection, releasing societal expectations, embracing life's beautiful flaws, and living with authentic purpose. Suddenly, life is no longer a burden, it's an adventure, a journey of slow yet certain progress, courageous solitude, joyful imperfection, and genuine meaning. Most people chase success like it's a mountain that can only be conquered with one heroic leap. They think they need to change everything overnight. Wake up at 5 a.m., build 5 habits in a day, start a business, read 10 books, quit social media, get ripped. But that kind of thinking is a trap. It burns people out. It makes change feel impossible. Because when you believe that only huge, dramatic action can improve your life, you also believe that your tiny daily efforts are worthless, and that couldn't be further from the truth. There's a Japanese philosophy that flips that idea on its head. It suggests that greatness isn't found in explosive effort, but in slow, steady progress. It teaches that if you improve by just a tiny amount, something so small it seems invisible, you can transform your entire life. That philosophy is called Kaizen. It literally means change for better, but it's more than a method, it's a mindset. A quiet revolution, a way of approaching life that doesn't rely on motivation or force or speed, but on consistency, simplicity, and awareness. This approach helped rebuild post-war Japan. It turned struggling companies like Toyota into global giants, But it didn't stop there. Olympic coaches use it to build world champions. Artists, entrepreneurs, philosophers, it's become a silent foundation behind many success stories. Not because it's flashy, but because it works. Kaizen doesn't promise instant results, it promises something better, real, lasting change. This idea can be hard to grasp, especially in a world addicted to shortcuts and overnight success stories. But Kaizen is about what happens when no one is watching. When you decide to do just one push-up instead of none. When you read one page. When you replace one negative thought. When you sit for one extra minute in silence. These tiny acts, repeated over time, don't just add up. They multiply, they compound, they shape your identity. They turn you into someone who shows up even when it's not exciting. That's the true power of Kaizen. It turns personal development from a sprint into a ritual, from a burden into a rhythm. It doesn't care if you're motivated, it doesn't care if you're perfect. It only asks one thing. Can you improve this moment by just 1%? We'll look at how small daily actions can trigger massive long-term change. We'll see how Kaizen aligns with ancient wisdom from Zen Buddhism. We'll explore how you can apply it to your habits, your goals, your mind, your body, your relationships, everything. This isn't about hacks or hustle. This is about building a system so gentle, so sustainable, that it becomes part of who you are. Not a resolution, a way of life. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed by your ambitions, or tired of starting over, this philosophy might be the missing piece. Because Kaizen reminds us, you don't need to be extraordinary to begin. You just need to begin. Kaizen is a simple word, but behind it lies a powerful idea. The word itself comes from two Japanese characters, Kai, meaning change, Zen, meaning good. Together, they form the concept of change for the better. Not just change for the sake of change, and not massive transformation either, just steady, thoughtful, meaningful progress. It's a quiet kind of philosophy, one that doesn't shout or demand attention, but it works. Because it's grounded in something deeper than motivation. It's built on the rhythm of improvement. Although Kaizen became globally recognized through Japanese business practices in the 20th century, its roots go much further back. The mindset of Kaizen has been part of Eastern philosophy for centuries. In Zen Buddhism, there's an emphasis on presence, repetition, and refinement. The tea ceremony, for example, isn't just about drinking tea, it's about perfecting the small rituals around it. The same is true in calligraphy, martial arts, even flower arranging. All these practices are based on the belief that you can always go deeper, always move closer to the ideal, one deliberate action at a time. That's the heart of Kaizen. But the formal structure of Kaizen as we know it today took shape after World War II. Japan had been devastated. Its economy was in ruins, industries were broken, and yet out of this destruction came one of the most remarkable economic recoveries in modern history, and Kaizen was at the center of it. The Japanese understood that if they couldn't rebuild quickly, they could at least rebuild better, and they did it one step at a time. They turned to new approaches in management and quality control, approaches that favored consistency, collaboration, and continuous small improvements over massive top-down restructuring. One of the most influential figures in this movement was Kaoru Ishikawa, a Japanese professor and engineer who believed that quality control shouldn't be limited to top executives or experts. He insisted that everyone in an organization should be involved in improving it. Whether you were an assembly line worker or a manager, you had the power and the responsibility to make things better. He developed tools like the Ishikawa diagram, also known as the fishbone diagram, to help teams identify root causes of problems and fix them at the source. His ideas transformed how businesses operated, not just in Japan, but around the world. Another key figure was W. Edwards Deming, an American statistician who played a huge role in bringing the principles of quality improvement to Japanese industry. Deming introduced concepts like the Plan, Do, Check, Act (PDCA) cycle, a framework for testing and refining processes incrementally. His teachings emphasized measurement, feedback, and most importantly, the power of systems over individuals. He believed that 94% of problems in business were due to flawed systems, not lazy people. That means fixing the system is more important than blaming the worker, and improving the system starts with small, intentional actions. Nowhere did these ideas flourish more than in Toyota, the car manufacturer that became a global leader not by being the flashiest, but by being the most consistent. Toyota adopted Kaizen so deeply into its culture that every employee, from the CEO to the janitor, was expected to look for ways to improve. If a factory worker spotted a problem on the assembly line, they could stop production to fix it. There was no shame in mistakes, only opportunities for learning. This approach led to innovations in efficiency, safety, and quality that made Toyota one of the most respected car brands in the world. But Kaizen didn't stay in factories. It started to leak into other parts of life: education, healthcare, sports, even personal development. Because at its core, Kaizen isn't just a business method, it's a philosophy of how to approach anything you care about. It's about believing that no matter how small your action is, it matters. It's about trusting the process instead of chasing results. And most of all, it's about taking responsibility for your own growth every single day. Let's pause and reflect on that. Think about how often we dismiss small actions. We say things like, "What's the point of exercising for just 5 minutes?" or "1 page of reading won't change anything." That's the opposite of Kaizen. Kaizen says, start small, trust the momentum, improve what you can. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for motivation. Just take one step today. Over time, those steps add up to something extraordinary. It's not about going from 0 to hero. It's about going from 0 to 1, then from 1 to 2, and so on. Kaizen has 3 core principles that make it so powerful. The first is continuous improvement. That means never settling. Not in a way that makes you anxious or perfectionistic, but in a way that keeps you curious. There's always a better way to do things, a cleaner way, a calmer way, a kinder way. It doesn't mean everything must change all the time. It means that you're always open to change, even if it's just a small tweak. It's a way of living that embraces evolution over revolution. The second principle is that everyone is responsible. This is what makes Kaizen such a democratic idea. Improvement isn't reserved for experts. You don't need a degree or a leadership title to make a difference. In a Kaizen mindset, the cleaner can improve the workflow of the office. The receptionist can improve the way guests are welcomed. And in your own life, it means you don't need permission from anyone else to start improving. You can take ownership of your own growth. You can decide that today is the day to improve something, however small, because you have the authority to do so. And the third principle is that no action is too small. This one is so important. In our results-driven culture, we often dismiss anything that doesn't bring immediate rewards. We think change has to feel hard or intense to be valuable. But Kaizen teaches the opposite. It teaches that value lies in momentum. That small steps aren't just acceptable, they're essential. Because small steps are the only kind that are truly sustainable. Anyone can do something impressive once, but Kaizen asks, can you improve just a little every day without burning out? That's where real transformation begins. Think about self-development through this lens. You don't need to wake up tomorrow as a new person. You don't need to fix everything about yourself by the end of the week. Instead, ask, what is one thing I can make slightly better today? Can I organize my desk? Can I take a 5-minute walk? Can I speak a little more kindly to myself? Can I reduce one tiny piece of friction in my daily routine? That's Kaizen in action. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply living with awareness and intention, and that creates a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't fade. Over time, Kaizen becomes more than a practice. It becomes an identity. You start to see yourself not as someone who needs to be fixed, but as someone who is committed to growth. You stop chasing motivation and start building systems. You stop waiting for breakthroughs and start trusting in small steps. It's not exciting, at least not in the beginning, but it's powerful, because while others burn out trying to reinvent themselves overnight, you'll be improving steadily, day after day. And that's how lasting change happens. Not through one big leap, but through thousands of quiet steps in the right direction. Most people fail to change not because they're lazy or weak or undisciplined, but because they expect too much, too fast. We live in a culture that glorifies instant results. Everyone wants the overnight transformation, the weight loss in 30 days, the business that explodes in a month, the morning routine that fixes your life in 1 week. But real life doesn't work like that. When we set unrealistic goals, we often fall into a trap called self-sabotage. We set massive expectations for ourselves, then feel crushed when we can't live up to them. It creates a cycle of guilt, burnout, and eventually giving up. Not because the dream was wrong, but because the process was unsustainable. This is exactly what happens every year with New Year's resolutions. Millions of people set bold goals in January. Go to the gym every day, cut out sugar, meditate for an hour, write a book, wake up at 5 a.m. For a few days, maybe even a couple weeks, the motivation is high, the vision feels exciting, but then reality kicks in. Life gets busy, motivation fades, you miss one workout, then two, you eat a donut and feel like a failure. Before the end of February, most people have abandoned their resolutions completely. And the worst part is not the failure itself, it's what that failure does to your belief in yourself. You start to think, maybe I just can't change. Kaizen offers a completely different approach. Instead of trying to do everything at once, it asks you to do just one thing, just a little better than yesterday. Instead of building a brand new life in 30 days, Kaizen says, build a 1% improvement every day for a year. That's it. 1%, one tiny change, one page, one step, one breath. At first it feels like nothing is happening. You don't notice the change. No one else does either. But over time, those small efforts start to stack up. They compound. They become part of who you are. And suddenly, you look back and realize that you've become someone completely different. Not because of one big moment, but because of hundreds of small, invisible ones. This is where Kaizen and perfectionism go in opposite directions. Perfectionism says, if you can't do it perfectly, don't do it at all. Kaizen says, just start and improve as you go. Perfectionism wants immediate results and flawless execution. Kaizen is patient. It values progress over perfection, and that's why it works. Because perfectionism paralyzes you. It keeps you stuck in your head, worrying about doing it right. Kaizen liberates you. It lets you take action without pressure. It makes room for mistakes, for learning, for slow growth, and that makes it sustainable. One of the most powerful ideas connected to Kaizen is the concept of identity-based change, something popularized by authors like James Clear and B.J. Fogg. The idea is this: instead of obsessing over goals like I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to write a book, you focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally does those things. It's a shift from outcome to identity, from results to process, from what you want to get to who you want to be. You stop saying, I want to run a marathon, and start saying, I am the kind of person who trains every day, even if it's just a short run. You stop saying, I want to read 50 books, and instead say, I am the kind of person who reads 1 page a day. The change might seem subtle, but it's everything. Because when you tie your identity to the habit itself, not the goal, you no longer need to rely on willpower. The behavior becomes part of who you are, and once it becomes part of your identity, it becomes automatic. You don't need to think about brushing your teeth or tying your shoes, you just do it. That's the goal with Kaizen, to build your habits into your character, so they're not just things you force yourself to do when you're feeling inspired, but things you naturally do, even when you're tired, bored, or unmotivated. BJ Fogg, a Stanford behavior scientist, talks about the power of starting tiny. He says the mistake most people make is trying to build big habits all at once. He suggests the opposite. Start so small it feels silly. Want to build a habit of doing push-ups? Start with one push-up. Want to floss your teeth? Floss one tooth. Want to write every day? Just open the document. Why? Because the hardest part of any habit is starting. Once you're in motion, momentum kicks in. And even if you only do the tiny version of the habit, you're still reinforcing the identity you want. You're casting votes for the person you're becoming. James Clear expands on this with the idea that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Goals are good for direction, but systems are what actually move you forward. And systems are just small routines, stacked and repeated over time. A system for fitness might be do 10 minutes of movement every morning. A system for learning might be watch one video or read one page before bed. These things seem small, but over months and years, they build something unshakable. And more importantly, they don't rely on motivation, they rely on structure. That's why they last. There's a powerful metaphor from nature that explains this well: the growth of bamboo. When you plant a bamboo seed, nothing happens for the first year, or the second, or the third, or the fourth. It just sits there, underground, no visible progress. But during that time, it's building a massive root system, a foundation. And then, in the 5th year, something incredible happens. It shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. People see the growth and think it happened overnight, but the truth is it was growing the entire time, just not in a way you could see. Your habits work the same way. You might feel like nothing is changing. You might feel like your small efforts are pointless, but beneath the surface, something is building, a mindset, a system, an identity, and eventually all that invisible progress becomes visible. People will look at you and say, "How did you change so fast?" But you'll know it wasn't fast at all. It was daily, it was slow, it was intentional. That's Kaizen. So when you feel like giving up because the progress is too slow, remember the bamboo. Remember that everything great has deep roots. Remember that every expert was once a beginner doing tiny things consistently. And most of all, remember that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to keep going. Improvement isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It happens quietly, but it always happens, if you keep showing up. Kaizen is a reminder that you don't have to change your whole life to move forward. You just have to change something. One thing, today. Then do it again tomorrow. It's not a race, it's not a performance, it's a practice. And every small action is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for motivation. Start now, start small, stay consistent, let the roots grow. The rest will come. Most people underestimate what small, consistent effort can do. We live in a world that's obsessed with intensity, pushing hard, going all in, getting big results as fast as possible. But when you actually look at how real, lasting success happens, it's not about intensity, it's about consistency. It's about showing up every day, and doing something so small that it almost doesn't feel like it matters. But over time, that small thing multiplies. And then, one day, it becomes something massive. That's the power of the 1% rule. The 1% rule is simple. It says, if you can get just 1% better every single day, that small improvement will compound. It doesn't sound like much, just 1%. It's barely noticeable. But here's the math. If you improve by 1% every day for a year, by the end of the year, you're not 365% better. You're not even 1000% better. You're 37 times better. That's the power of compound growth. Just like compound interest in a savings account, your effort starts earning its own interest. One improvement builds on the last. Your progress starts to accelerate, not because you're doing more, but because you've built momentum. Think of it this way. Imagine you're rolling a snowball down a hill. At first, it's tiny. You can barely see it growing. But as it keeps rolling, it picks up more snow. It grows faster. It moves with more force. After a while, it's unstoppable. The same thing happens with small habits. At the start, it feels like nothing is happening. You're putting in effort, but you can't see the results. But if you keep going, those efforts start working for you. You build skills. You gain experience. You get stronger, smarter, more focused. Eventually, you hit a point where the growth becomes exponential, and it all started with 1%. Let's make it even simpler. Imagine reading just one page of a book every day. One page, that's it. In a year, you'll have read over 350 pages. That's a full-length book, or maybe two, all from one page a day. Or take walking. You walk for 10 minutes a day. That's 3,650 minutes a year, over 60 hours of movement. Again, from something so small it barely feels like exercise. This is what most people miss. They don't realize that effort, when repeated, compounds. They think big change requires big action, but the truth is, it requires small action done consistently over time. To help make this kind of progress real, you can use a simple system. Assess, improve, repeat. It starts with awareness. You assess where you are, what's working, what's not, where you feel stuck. Then, instead of trying to fix everything at once, you find one small thing you can improve. Just one. Maybe it's waking up 10 minutes earlier, or drinking one more glass of water, or spending 5 minutes planning your day. Whatever it is, you focus on that. You improve it, then you repeat the process. Every week, every month, you're checking in, adjusting, and building. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. The beauty of this system is that it doesn't overwhelm you. You're not setting huge, scary goals. You're setting micro goals. You're making the process so manageable that it's almost impossible to fail, and over time, those micro improvements add up. You build a personal growth engine that keeps running even when life gets busy or unpredictable, because it's not about how much you do in a day, it's about whether you keep doing it. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine a line graph. The x-axis is time, the y-axis is progress. If you make no effort, your line stays flat. If you go hard for a week and then stop, your line spikes and crashes. But if you improve by just a little each day, your line curves upward, slowly at first, then steeper, then faster. That curve, that quiet, steady climb, is the shape of real success. Not a sharp peak and a sharp fall, but a gentle rise that turns into a surge. Or picture a row of dominoes. One small domino can knock over another that's 50% bigger. Line them up right, and with one small push, you can topple something huge. That's what your habits are like. One small habit, done daily, can start a chain reaction. You read one page a day, then you're reading a chapter, then you're finishing books, then you're applying what you learn, then you're changing how you think, all from that first tiny action. This is why consistency beats intensity. Anyone can be intense for a day. Anyone can push hard when they're excited. But not everyone can be consistent when no one is watching, when it's boring, when it feels pointless. That's where Kaizen lives, in those quiet moments where you choose to show up anyway. And the reward isn't just in the results, It's in the identity you build. You become someone who doesn't quit, someone who honors the process, someone who grows even when the growth is invisible. James Clear put it perfectly. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. We love the dramatic stories, the overnight success, the sudden rise. But behind every overnight success is a long, quiet season of practice, of patience, of showing up day after day long before the world noticed. That's the part no one talks about. That's the part that actually matters. So if you feel like you're behind, if you feel like your goals are too big or too far away, try shrinking the target. Ask yourself, what's the smallest thing I can do today to move forward? Then do it. And tomorrow, do it again. You don't need to make a giant leap. You just need to take the next small step. That's the 1% rule. That's how small gains multiply. And that's how real transformation happens. Not with one big decision, but with hundreds of quiet ones. To truly understand Kaizen, you have to go beyond business strategies and productivity hacks. You have to look deeper into the soul of the culture that created it. Because at its core, Kaizen is not just a method for improvement. It's a way of moving through the world, and that way is deeply connected to Zen Buddhism. The connection between the two isn't always made explicit, but it's there, woven into the fabric of how the Japanese approach life, work, and even beauty. Kaizen is not just about making things better, it's about how you make things better, with presence, simplicity, humility, and total dedication to the process itself. Zen Buddhism teaches that fulfillment doesn't come from chasing after outcomes. It comes from being fully present in what you're doing right now. Whether it's drinking tea, sweeping the floor, or making a pot of rice, every action is an opportunity to enter into the moment completely. There's no such thing as a small task. There's only how deeply you can inhabit it. This mindset is at the very heart of Kaizen. It's not about rushing to the finish line. It's about showing up fully, doing the work with care, and trusting that improvement will follow. There's no obsession with results. The process is the reward. One of the key principles in Zen is simplicity. Not minimalism in a trendy, aesthetic way, but simplicity as clarity, as discipline, as stripping away the unnecessary so that only what matters remains. In Zen temples, everything is arranged with intention. There is no clutter, no excess, just enough. This same spirit is found in Kaizen. When you commit to continuous improvement, you start to let go of things that don't serve you. You reduce friction. You eliminate waste, mental, emotional, and physical. You begin to see that progress doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means doing less, but doing it better. Another profound overlap between Zen and Kaizen is the emphasis on repetition. In Western culture, repetition is often seen as boring. We want novelty, we get impatient. But in Zen, repetition is sacred. It's how the mind is sharpened, it's how the spirit is trained. Monks sweep the same paths, chant the same sutras, sit in the same posture over and over, not because they're trying to be efficient, but because they know. Repetition reveals depth. The longer you stay with something, the more it teaches you. Kaizen applies this same wisdom. By repeating small improvements day after day, you start to see the layers beneath the surface. You move from doing something to understanding it, to embodying it. Zen also teaches the art of letting go of the ego. This is one of the biggest spiritual challenges in self-development. We want to see results fast, because it makes us feel good about ourselves. We want people to notice our growth. We want transformation to look impressive. But Zen says, Let go of that. You're not here to perform, you're here to be present. You're here to practice. And sometimes, growth looks invisible. Sometimes, no one sees it but you. And that has to be enough. Kaizen teaches the same thing. It asks you to work in the dark, to improve even when no one is watching, to do it not for validation, but because it's the right thing to do, because it honors who you are becoming. This philosophy is beautifully expressed in traditional Japanese crafts. Think about the tea ceremony. It's a carefully choreographed ritual where every movement, the way the water is poured, the way the bowl is held, is done with intention. Not for efficiency, not for productivity, but for presence. Or take calligraphy. The brushstroke is not just about forming a character, it's about expressing your state of mind. You can't fake it, your energy is imprinted in the ink. Or think about sword making. A master blacksmith might spend decades learning how to fold and shape the steel. The process is long, quiet, repetitive, and yet every blade carries the spirit of the one who made it. This is not just skill, it's devotion. That devotion is known in Japanese culture as the shokunin spirit. A shokunin is a craftsman, not just someone who does a job, but someone who brings soul to their work. Someone who seeks perfection not out of pride, but out of reverence. The shokunin doesn't rush. They don't cut corners. They approach their craft with humility and focus, always looking for the next small way to improve. It doesn't matter if they're making sushi, shaping wood, or repairing a shoe. They give their all to the task in front of them. That's Kaizen in human form. The daily effort to refine, improve, and honor the process. And in that effort, there's another Zen concept worth knowing. Ikigai. It means total concentration on a single act. It's the idea that when you do something, anything, you give it your full attention. No distractions, no multitasking, just you and the task. This can be anything: washing dishes, tying your shoes, writing a sentence. What matters is the depth of your focus. Because when you enter that space, when your mind is fully in the act, you're no longer separate from what you're doing. You're not thinking about improving, you are the improvement. You're not trying to be better, you're embodying it. That's the spiritual core of Kaizen. It's not a hustle, it's not a to-do list. It's a way of becoming through doing, one action at a time, with presence, with care, with reverence for the moment. And it's deeply healing because it shifts your attention from what am I achieving to how am I being, from what do I get from this to what do I bring to this. It's a return to self, not as a project to be fixed, but as a process to be honored. So when you think about Kaizen, don't just think about goals and progress bars. Think about the way you move through your day. Think about the way you stir your coffee, the way you greet someone, the way you write an email. Each of those is an opportunity to practice, to embody excellence, even in the smallest act. Not because someone's watching, but because it shapes who you are. And that's the final lesson from Zen and Kaizen. The path is the practice. The doing is the becoming. You don't need to wait to be better. You don't need to wait to be worthy. Every time you engage with your life, fully, mindfully, patiently, you are already becoming the person you're meant to be. Kaizen just helps you remember that, one step at a time. The real power of Kaizen is that it doesn't require a complete life overhaul. You don't need to retreat to the mountains, quit your job, or wait for the perfect time to change. Kaizen meets you where you are. It fits into your life, not the other way around. It works because it doesn't rely on intensity or bursts of motivation. It simply asks, what is one small way you can improve today? When you take that question seriously, you start to see that Kaizen can be applied to everything. Your mind, your body, your work, your relationships. Every area of your life becomes an opportunity for small, consistent progress. Your mind is where everything starts. Your habits, your choices, your outlook on life, all of it begins with how you think and how you feel. And the mind, like a muscle, needs to be trained gently but consistently. You don't need to meditate for 30 minutes or become a monk to start improving your mental space. You can begin with something as simple as 2 minutes of meditation. That's all. Sit down, close your eyes, focus on your breath. 2 minutes. You might feel like nothing's happening, but with time, you'll begin to notice a shift. You'll go from 2 minutes to 5, from 5 to 10, and slowly, you'll create space between your thoughts. You'll learn to respond instead of react. You'll build a calm mind, one breath at a time. Another way to sharpen the mind through Kaizen is by learning one new idea every day. Just one. That could be reading a single paragraph from a book, watching a short video on a subject you're curious about, or listening to a podcast for 5 minutes. It doesn't matter how you do it. What matters is that you're feeding your mind regularly. You're not trying to memorize everything or become an expert overnight. You're simply building the habit of curiosity. You're creating a mind that grows steadily, quietly, over time. And then there's journaling. Most people overcomplicate it. They think they need to write essays every night. But Kaizen says just write one sentence. That's it. One thought from your day. One insight. One thing you're grateful for. Over time, that single sentence becomes a log of your mental state, a mirror for your emotions, a guide to your growth. You don't need to analyze it, just let it be. The power comes from showing up day after day. A single line written with honesty is more valuable than pages written once a month out of guilt. Your body carries you through life. It's the vessel for everything you do, and yet it's often the first thing we neglect. We think taking care of our health requires a gym membership, a strict diet, or waking up at dawn. But Kaizen reminds us, start small. Can you do 5 push-ups right now? Just 5, that's enough. Tomorrow maybe you'll do 6, then 10. The goal isn't to become a bodybuilder overnight. It's to build the identity of someone who moves their body daily. You're not training for an event, you're training for life. The same goes for what you eat and drink. You don't have to cut out entire food groups or follow a perfect diet. Kaizen says, eat one better meal today. That could mean replacing soda with water, or choosing vegetables once, or skipping dessert today. It's not about being strict, it's about being mindful. Every better choice is a vote for your health. Every glass of water is a quiet act of self-respect. Don't underestimate these small decisions. They shape your energy, your mood, your future. Even something as ordinary as walking can be a form of Kaizen. If you normally walk 10 minutes, walk 15. If you sit all day, start with a 5-minute stroll after lunch. You don't need to hit 10,000 steps immediately. Just add a little more movement to your day. Let your body feel alive. Let it breathe. Let it stretch. Movement doesn't need to be intense to be meaningful. It just needs to be consistent. Work is where we spend a huge portion of our lives, yet it's also a place where we often get stuck in habits that drain us. Kaizen helps us approach work differently, not by working harder, but by working smarter. The first step is to optimize one task daily. Look at your to-do list. What's one thing you could do more efficiently? Maybe it's writing emails faster, organizing your schedule, or setting a time block for focused work. You're not trying to revamp your entire workflow, you're just making one part of it smoother today than it was yesterday. Your digital environment is another key area. So many of us work in cluttered digital spaces, messy desktops, hundreds of tabs, overflowing inboxes. Kaizen says, declutter just one part of it today. Close unnecessary tabs, archive old files, create one folder for your most used documents. You don't need a total digital detox. You just need a little more clarity. Each small act of order gives your mind room to breathe. It helps you focus, it reduces stress, and it makes you feel like you're in control. Another powerful workplace habit is to improve one's system. That could mean creating a better template, automating a repetitive task, or learning a keyboard shortcut. These things seem small, but they save you time and mental energy. More importantly, they shift your mindset. You stop reacting to your work, and you start designing it. You begin to feel less like a victim of tasks and more like the architect of your process. That shift is subtle, but it's life-changing. And then there's the most important part of life, your relationships. These too can be transformed through Kaizen, not with grand gestures, but with simple, consistent kindness. One of the easiest ways to start is by giving one genuine compliment each day. Not flattery, not surface-level praise, but something real, something specific. Tell your friend you admire their resilience. Tell your partner you noticed how thoughtful they were. Tell your co-worker you appreciate their effort. One sentence can shift someone's whole day, and slowly it can shift the entire tone of your relationships. Another underrated habit is learning to apologize faster. So many conflicts drag on, not because of the mistake itself, but because of pride, ego, stubbornness. Kaizen teaches us to let go of perfection and embrace humility. If you messed up, say it. If you hurt someone, own it. You don't need to wait until everything's settled. A simple, "I'm sorry for how I spoke earlier. I was stressed and I took it out on you," can prevent hours, days, even years of distance. And finally, practice asking more real questions. Not just "how are you" in passing, but "how are you really feeling lately?" or "what's been on your mind?" We live in a world full of shallow conversation. Kaizen in relationships means going a little deeper, a little more often. You don't need to solve anyone's problems. You just need to show up consistently, sincerely, patiently. Kaizen reminds us that you don't change your life, you change your day. And your day changes your life. That's the secret. Big transformations don't come from inspiration. They come from structure, from rhythm, from small choices repeated over time. And when you apply Kaizen to every part of your life, not by force, but by intention, you become someone who is always evolving. Not out of fear, not out of pressure, but out of love, out of respect for who you are and who you're becoming. You don't need to wait for the right moment. You don't need to fix everything at once. You just need to ask, what's one small thing I can improve today? Then do it. And tomorrow ask again. Let your life grow from there, slowly, quietly, powerfully. That's Kaizen. Becoming a Kaizen thinker means changing the way you see growth. It's not just about doing different things, it's about thinking differently. You begin by letting go of the myth that change has to be fast, dramatic, or impressive. You stop chasing the illusion of overnight success, because the truth is, that kind of change almost never lasts. It's like trying to build a house on sand. It might look good for a while, but without a solid foundation, it eventually crumbles. Kaizen offers you something much stronger, an inner shift that can hold the weight of your dreams. It teaches you that slow change is strong change, that steady improvement builds something unshakable. This shift starts when you realize that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days you'll feel inspired, most days you won't. If you rely on motivation to keep you going, you'll stop the moment things get hard or boring. That's why Kaizen teaches you to build systems instead of chasing moods. A system is a structure, a rhythm, a set of small routines that support your growth no matter how you feel. You don't ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" You just do it. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because you've made it part of your life. It's who you are now. And that's the next part of the inner shift, building a new identity. A Kaizen thinker doesn't say, "I want to be successful." They say, "I am the kind of person who improves every day." That's a powerful difference. You stop focusing on what you want to achieve and start focusing on who you want to become. You're no longer chasing a finish line. You're stepping into a new version of yourself, one small action at a time. And the more you act like that person, the more real that identity becomes. Every time you make a small improvement, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be. Those votes add up. To make this shift stick, you also have to make peace with imperfection. That's not easy, especially if you've spent years beating yourself up for not being good enough. But Kaizen asks you to let go of that old story. You're not here to prove anything. You're not here to be flawless. You're here to practice. And practice always includes mistakes, always. Think about a musician learning a new piece of music. They don't expect to get it perfect the first time. They play it over and over, adjusting, listening, refining. The process is the point. Your growth works the same way. You're allowed to get it wrong. You're allowed to stumble. What matters is that you keep showing up. When you truly embrace the Kaizen mindset, something shifts at the core of your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's broken or behind. You stop trying to fix yourself like you're a problem that needs solving. Instead, you begin to understand that self-development isn't about becoming someone else. It's about honoring who you already are and giving that person room to evolve. Kaizen isn't self-rejection, it's self-respect. It's saying, I care enough about myself to grow, slowly, patiently, daily. And this isn't just about feeling better, it's about becoming more effective. When you think like a Kaizen practitioner, you stop wasting energy on guilt, shame, and unrealistic expectations. You use that energy to build. You become more grounded, more focused, more resilient. You don't panic when progress is slow because you know that small steps compound. You don't spiral when you have a bad day because you know one misstep doesn't erase 1,000 good ones. You're no longer tied to outcomes, you're committed to the process, and that mindset frees you. To bring this shift into your real everyday life, here's a simple challenge. It's not flashy, it's not extreme, but it works. Choose one small area in your life, something that feels important but manageable. Maybe it's your sleep routine, your focus at work, how you eat, how you talk to people, how you handle stress. Whatever it is, pick just one thing. Then ask, how can I improve this by 1% this week? Just 1%, not 100%, not all at once. One tiny upgrade. Maybe you go to bed 15 minutes earlier. Maybe you start setting a timer to work in focused intervals. Maybe you drink an extra glass of water, or maybe you take 30 seconds each morning to pause and breathe before starting your day. Whatever you choose, stick with it for a week. Don't try to do more. Don't try to turn it into a big goal, just show up. One small improvement, then next week do it again. Pick another 1% and another. Over time, these changes will ripple out into every part of your life. You'll feel the shift, not all at once, but slowly, deeply. And you'll realize something powerful. You're no longer waiting for change. You've become the kind of person who creates it. That's the heart of becoming a Kaizen thinker. It's not something you read about or talk about, it's something you practice. In quiet ways, in small ways, and eventually in profound ways. You begin to see yourself not as a project to be completed, but as a path to be walked. You don't rush it, you don't resent it, you respect it. And in doing so, you unlock a kind of power most people never tap into. The ability to change your life by changing how you live each day. So if there's one thing to take from all of this, let it be this. You are not far away from the life you want. You're just one small step away. And when you take that step, not out of pressure but out of love, you begin the journey. A journey without shortcuts, a journey without rush, but a journey with purpose. And that's a journey worth taking. So here we are at the end of this journey. And if there's one thing to carry with you, it's this. Small steps create big change. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to be faster, louder, more impressive. But Kaizen quietly reminds us that slow is powerful. That daily, almost invisible effort is what leads to real, lasting transformation. Not the big, dramatic moments, not the hype, but the consistent, quiet choice to show up every day and improve something, even just a little. Kaizen isn't a tool you use once and forget. It's a way of living, a way of thinking, a mindset that reshapes how you approach everything. Your habits, your work, your health, your relationships, your thoughts. It teaches you that you don't need to rush. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't even need to feel ready. You just need to begin, wherever you are, with whatever you have, and from there, you keep going. One small step, then another. At the heart of Kaizen is daily consistency. The kind of consistency that doesn't depend on motivation. The kind that grows out of self-respect. You start to show up for yourself, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you care. You care about the person you're becoming, and that person doesn't need to be perfect. That person only needs to be willing. We talked about the myth of overnight success and how real growth is quiet. We talked about replacing motivation with systems, simple habits and daily routines that keep you moving even when you don't feel like it. We explored the idea that you're not trying to fix yourself. You're learning to honor yourself by improving gently, patiently, day by day. We looked at the spiritual roots of Kaizen in Zen, how it invites us to slow down, to be fully present, to embrace the process over perfection. And now, the question is yours to answer. What's your next small step? What is one area of your life, just one, where you can make a 1% improvement this week? Not to impress anyone, not to fix yourself, but to take care of yourself, to take ownership, to begin moving gently in the direction of your values. That's all Kaizen asks. It's not a revolution, it's not a sprint, it's a quiet walk forward. So let this be your reminder. In a world that's always rushing you, you don't have to be extraordinary today. You just have to be 1% better, and that's enough. That's enough to grow. That's enough to change. That's enough to become who you were always capable of being. Start small, stay consistent, trust the process. That's the Kaizen way. What do you become when you no longer follow the world? Not when you rebel for the sake of rebellion, not when you drift without direction, but when you consciously choose to walk a path that belongs only to you. What kind of person emerges when there is no external hand guiding you, no map, no master to answer to? The world might call it aimless, but the Japanese had a word for this kind of soul: Ronin, a samurai without a master, a warrior untethered, not bound by feudal code, not protected by power or status, free and terrifyingly alone. But there's a common misunderstanding about what being a Ronin really means. It's easy to romanticize the lone wolf, the wanderer, the outsider. Yet the Ronin is not some broken figure, drifting without purpose. The true Ronin is something else entirely. He is self-guided, purposeful, disciplined without needing discipline imposed on him. He is a person who chooses solitude not out of bitterness, but because he knows the cost of false belonging. He understands that many walk in groups simply to avoid facing their own direction. The Ronin walks alone because his path is his, and no one else can walk it for him. This is where we meet Miyamoto Musashi, perhaps the greatest Ronin to ever live. A man who defeated over 60 opponents in duels to the death. A man who refused to serve any lord, even though he could have gained wealth, power, and comfort. Instead, he slept on cave floors, wrote his deepest thoughts with a calligrapher's grace, and trained endlessly, not just in swordsmanship, but in painting, poetry, philosophy. Why? Because Musashi didn't just master the blade, he mastered himself, and he knew that the only way to do that was alone. This video isn't a tribute to violence. It's not about sword fighting or Japanese history. It's about a way of life. A philosophy that strips away the noise of the world and leaves you with something rare: silence, clarity, and truth. Musashi's path wasn't lonely. It was honest. He didn't need titles, likes, or applause to feel worthy. He walked away from the systems that others relied on, not because he couldn't compete, but because he understood something few do. You cannot become exceptional by clinging to what is common. So what happens when you no longer follow the world? You become responsible for your own direction. You stop outsourcing your purpose. You begin to write your own code. It's not easy, but it's real. This is the beginning of that journey, a journey into the philosophy of walking alone, not as exile, but as evolution. We're going to explore what it means to live like a Ronin, to cut away the noise, to find strength in solitude, to embrace the uncomfortable freedom that comes from self-mastery, and ultimately, to realize that the path we fear most, the solitary one, is often the only path worth walking. So if you've ever felt like you don't quite fit, like the systems around you weren't built for your soul, you're not lost. You're just standing at the threshold. And maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to follow. Maybe, like Musashi, you were meant to walk alone. To understand the philosophy of walking alone, you must first understand the man who embodied it completely, Miyamoto Musashi. He wasn't a myth, though his life often reads like one. He wasn't merely a swordsman, though his blade became legend. Musashi was a real human being, flesh, blood, doubt, decision, who lived in Japan over 400 years ago, and yet the way he lived continues to speak to people seeking purpose, freedom, and mastery today. Musashi was born in 1584 during the Sengoku period, a time of chaos, civil war, and shifting allegiances in Japan. It was an age of warriors, and the path of the samurai was one of the few ways to rise above your birth. But Musashi was not born into luxury or safety. His mother likely died when he was young, and his father, himself a swordsman, may have either abandoned him or died early. Much of Musashi's early life is shrouded in mystery, but this much is clear. From a young age, he stood alone. At just 13 years old, Musashi fought his first duel. Imagine that. A child, barely a teenager, standing across from a grown samurai armed with real weapons, real stakes. No padding, no points, no referees, just life and death. And Musashi won. Not by following a polished style or obeying a formal code, but by relying on instinct, intelligence, and pure will. This early victory was not the end of something, it was the beginning. Over the next few decades, Musashi would go on to fight more than 60 duels, and he never lost. Some of his opponents were among the most skilled and respected swordsmen in Japan, but Musashi's victories didn't come from brute force alone. They came from an approach that was utterly his own. He refused to be predictable. He fought with both hands, sometimes with two swords at once. He would arrive early or late. He would use wooden swords instead of steel. He didn't play by the rules. He understood them, and then he transcended them. What's remarkable isn't just that Musashi won, it's how he chose to live. Despite his fame, he consistently rejected the life of prestige that could have easily been his. In that era, a skilled warrior could secure a place under a powerful lord, earning wealth, servants, land, and status. Musashi was offered these things. He could have lived in comfort, celebrated as a master, but he turned it all down, again and again. He walked away from power and chose the path of solitude. He lived like a hermit, sometimes in caves, sometimes in small huts, seeking not pleasure but purity, not applause but clarity. And it's here that Musashi begins to evolve from a duelist into a philosopher. He understood that the sword was just one expression of something deeper. It wasn't about killing, it was about mastering the self. Every duel, every choice to withdraw from society, every moment of silence was part of something greater, a lifelong pursuit of inner stillness and unshakable presence. In the final years of his life, Musashi retired from fighting and turned to writing. His most famous work, The Book of Five Rings, was written just weeks before his death. It's often categorized as a book on martial strategy, but that's misleading. It's far more than that. The Book of Five Rings is about how to live. It's about how to see clearly, act decisively, remain grounded, and master any craft, not just swordsmanship. Musashi divides the book into 5 chapters: earth, water, fire, wind, and void, each representing different aspects of strategy, mindset, and awareness. In the earth chapter, he talks about the foundation, knowing your terrain, knowing yourself. In water, he explains the need to be adaptable, fluid, responsive. Fire is about engagement, how to face conflict and seize the initiative. Wind critiques other schools, not to belittle them, but to teach the importance of transcending style. And finally, void, the most abstract and profound, touches on the idea of formlessness, emptiness, the state of no mind, from which pure action flows. It's Zen, warrior code, and raw lived wisdom all in one. When Musashi knew his death was near, he didn't pick up a sword to go out in glory. He didn't surround himself with admirers. He withdrew to a cave and began writing his final teachings, the Dokudo, the way of walking alone. 21 short precepts, no commentary, just raw, distilled truth. Lines like, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Resentment and complaint are appropriate neither for oneself nor others. Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. Do not fear death." These were not commandments barked by a guru. They were reminders, etched from a life of direct experience. He wasn't warning us from the sidelines. He had walked the path, every brutal, quiet, honest step. What's most striking about Musashi's story is that he chose solitude. He chose discomfort. He chose the uncertainty of the open road over the certainty of a throne. And he didn't do it because he was broken. He wasn't pushed away. He walked away. There's a critical difference. Many people today find themselves isolated and think of solitude as something shameful or sad. But Musashi shows us that solitude, when chosen, is a source of incredible power. It is where you stop being what the world tells you to be and begin discovering what you truly are. He wasn't running from anything. He was running towards something, mastery. Not mastery over others, but over the self. That's what makes Musashi's path so compelling. That's why it still speaks to us centuries later. Because deep down many of us feel that same pull. The desire to break away from the noise, from the pressure to belong, from the endless demand to be what others expect. We crave stillness, integrity, purpose. Musashi lived that. He didn't talk about it, he became it. So when we speak of Musashi, not just as a swordsman, but as the Ronin archetype, we're not glorifying isolation or violence. We're honoring the rare courage it takes to walk alone, not because you have no place, but because you've decided to make your own. He didn't belong to the world, he belonged to the path. And that is why his story matters, not because he won, but because of how he chose to live. We live in a world that fears silence. The moment there's a pause, we reach for a screen. The instant we're alone, we feel the need to broadcast, check in, scroll, or reply. We've been taught, subtly and persistently, that solitude is something to be filled. filled with noise, filled with company, filled with approval. We wear our social calendars like armor. We check how many people liked our last thought before deciding if it was worth having. But this constant connection often leads to disconnection. Not from others, but from ourselves. And this is where the power of solitude begins. Solitude is not the absence of people, it's the presence of yourself. And most people have no idea who that person is. Musashi knew, that's why he actively sought solitude, not because he was trying to escape the world, but because he was trying to understand himself without the world's interference. After decades of dueling, travel, and refining his skills, Musashi didn't retire into wealth or ease. He chose stillness. He isolated himself in a cave, not to hide, but to confront, to strip away everything that wasn't essential. This wasn't a retreat out of fear, it was a deliberate act of power. He understood that to lead oneself, one must first be with oneself, fully, without distraction, without noise, without performance. Solitude is a space where the masks fall away. There's no one to impress, no one to react to, just you, raw, unfiltered, honest. It's in solitude that you hear the voice beneath all the others, the one that often gets drowned out by the chorus of opinions and expectations. That voice is your compass, and if you ignore it long enough, you lose direction. You start walking paths not meant for you. You become a stranger in your own life. Musashi's cave wasn't empty. It was full of focus, full of discipline, full of truth. That's what makes solitude powerful. It's not passive. It's not about being lonely or withdrawn. It's about becoming aligned. When you're alone, you start to feel what's real and what's not. What actually matters to you, not what you've been told should matter. It's the place where all external noise fades and what remains is a kind of unshakable knowing. That kind of clarity can't be faked, and it can't be handed to you by others. You have to find it on your own, or not at all. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus, born a slave, said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And what do we often value the most? Approval, praise, validation, other people's perception of us. But Musashi and the Stoics remind us to need nothing from others is the foundation of freedom. That includes their attention, their applause, even their understanding. When you no longer need others to confirm your worth, your mind becomes your own. And that is when true strength begins. Seneca wrote, "Look at those whose names are in everyone's mouth. They are often the most troubled inside." Why? Because fame is a prison built from applause. You become trapped in the expectations of others. But when you learn to sit in solitude, you stop performing. You start becoming. Not someone else's version of strong or wise or successful, but your own. You begin to understand that solitude is not weakness. It's training. It's refinement. It's a sharpening of the self. Musashi's solitude wasn't idle. He trained every day. He wrote, he painted, he meditated, he honed his perception and instincts. In isolation, he was more active than most are in crowds. He once said, "You may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor." That's the kind of inner commitment that solitude demands. When no one is watching, will you still live with integrity? When no one is clapping, will you still keep going? That's what solitude teaches. Not how to be alone, but how to be responsible to yourself when there is no audience, no reward, no recognition, just you and your truth. In solitude, discipline stops being punishment and starts becoming nourishment. You no longer work hard to prove something. You work hard because it aligns you with your purpose. You no longer need others to hold you accountable. You become the one who doesn't let yourself off the hook. That's the quiet power of a person who's comfortable alone. They're not easily manipulated. They're not desperate for a seat at someone else's table. They are the table. They don't chase belonging because they've already come home to themselves. But this kind of strength scares people. Because it can't be controlled. A person who is fine being alone is someone you can't bribe with approval or blackmail with rejection. They've faced silence and made peace with it. They've sat in the void and emerged with clarity. And the world doesn't know what to do with someone like that. Today we confuse connection with consumption. We are connected to hundreds, maybe thousands of people, yet feel deeply unknown, even to ourselves. Solitude reverses that. It reconnects us with the one person we actually live with, ourself. And that reconnection can be uncomfortable at first. It brings up what we've avoided. It shows us our weaknesses, our addictions, our noise. But if we stay with it, if we endure that discomfort, it also gives us back our power. Musashi's solitude gave him more than peace. It gave him perspective. It allowed him to see the game others were playing, chasing rank, favor, recognition, and step outside it. Not to be better than anyone, but to be free from the chase. His power wasn't that he didn't care what others thought, it's that he had trained himself to not need what they offered. That kind of self-sufficiency is rare, and it's forged always in solitude. When you look at your own life, ask yourself, when was the last time you truly sat with yourself, with no distractions, no devices, no noise? Could you go a full day without speaking to anyone? Could you go a full hour without checking your phone? Could you sit in a room alone and not feel the need to escape? These are not small questions. They're the beginning of sovereignty. To be truly alone and to be okay, even empowered by that, is to reclaim something sacred. In that space, you stop being pulled in every direction and start becoming whole. You stop reacting to the world and start responding from within. That's where clarity lives. That's where strength grows. That's where freedom begins. Solitude is not exile. It's a return to yourself, a return to your values, a return to what's real beneath the noise. In a culture obsessed with connection, solitude has become a form of rebellion. But it's the rebellion that saves you. Musashi shows us that the strongest path isn't always the loudest one. It's often the quietest. It's the path where no one is cheering but you keep walking, where no one is watching but you still act with honor, where no one is guiding you but you follow a compass that lives in your chest. This is the strength in solitude, and the longer you sit in it, the more you realize you were never really alone. You were just meeting yourself for the first time. There's a certain kind of person the world doesn't know what to do with. Someone who doesn't ask for permission. Someone who listens to their own voice louder than the voices around them. Someone who walks away from the expected path and doesn't look back. Miyamoto Musashi was that kind of person. He never bowed to a lord. He never aligned himself with a political faction. He refused titles, turned down powerful allies, and chose to walk his path without anyone else's authority over him. Not because he was rebellious, not because he was trying to prove a point, but because he understood something that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. To be truly free, you must walk without a master. Let's be clear, in the world Musashi lived in, that choice was radical. Japan in the 1600s was a land built on hierarchy. Loyalty to a master wasn't just tradition, it was law, identity, honor. For a samurai, allegiance defined your place in the world. To serve a lord meant safety, belonging, reputation, and income. To reject all of that meant danger, exile, and social invisibility. And Musashi chose exile, not once, but continually. At any moment, he could have sworn loyalty and secured status. He didn't, because he saw that with every ounce of comfort came a weight, the weight of obedience, of compromise, of being controlled. This doesn't just apply to ancient warriors, it applies to us, right now. Because we live in a world full of masters. Not always people, but systems, expectations, scripts. Your boss might not wear a sword, but if you let him define your worth, he is your master. Social media might not command you with words, but if you check it before checking in with yourself, it controls you. Cultural norms, trends, what's considered successful or normal, these are all invisible masters. They whisper to you constantly, do this, buy that, act like them, chase this dream, stay in line. And the scary part is, they do it so smoothly, you might not even realize you're being owned. That's why the idea of being masterless today is more relevant than ever. To walk the path of no master doesn't mean rejecting all authority. It doesn't mean isolation or anarchy. It means choosing to live on your terms. It means questioning who's pulling the strings of your life, and if they're even strings you want to be attached to. Most people follow a script they didn't write. Go to school, get the job, climb the ladder, buy the things, fit in, don't rock the boat. And many wake up one day in a life that looks right on the outside but feels empty on the inside. Why? Because they've been living someone else's story. Musashi never made that mistake. He wasn't rich, he wasn't adored by the masses, but he was his own. That's the trade. When you choose to walk without a master, you give up certainty, you give up comfort, you give up being easily understood. People might think you're lost, they might think you're strange, arrogant, selfish, naive, and sometimes it will feel like they're right. There will be days when you question everything, when you wonder if maybe it would be easier to go back, to fit in, to follow the script. But then there will be days when you look around and realize you're free. And that kind of realization doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence, the kind that only a truly sovereign person can recognize. True freedom isn't just the ability to choose what you want. It's the ability to say no to what you don't, and that no is costly. It might mean walking away from a high-paying job that drains your soul. It might mean disappointing your parents because you chose a path they don't understand. It might mean spending nights alone instead of being surrounded by people who don't see the real you. But that cost buys something rare, authenticity. And once you taste it, you can't go back to pretending. Musashi shows us that you can be powerful without being in power, that you can be respected without seeking attention, that you can walk alone and still walk with purpose. In modern life, walking without a master means living intentionally. It means knowing your values so clearly that you don't have to be told who you are. It means building a life that reflects your principles, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's, especially then. Ask yourself, who or what is your master right now? Is it your job, your social image, your fear of being misunderstood, your need to be liked? These forces are subtle. They dress up as normal, but they steer your choices. They shape your days, and they often keep you from becoming who you're meant to be. To walk without a master is to own your time, to own your attention, to own your decisions. It doesn't mean never listening to others. It means choosing when you do, and knowing why. It means standing in front of your life and saying, "This is mine," even if no one else understands, even if no one applauds. That's the kind of integrity that can't be given. It must be claimed. You will be tested. The path of no master is not paved. It's quiet, uncertain, and often uphill. You will be tempted to go back, to hand the wheel to someone else, to trade your freedom for validation. But remember, Musashi didn't win every battle because he was stronger. He won because he refused to fight on anyone else's terms. He chose his ground. He chose his timing. He chose his values. That's what made him unstoppable. There's a line from the Dokudo, Musashi's final writing before his death. Do not seek to possess either goods or fiefs for your old age. In other words, don't build your life around comfort. Build it around character. Don't serve what doesn't align with your soul, no matter how tempting or secure it might seem. And so we return to the question, what would your life look like if you had no master, no employer defining your worth, No peer pressure shaping your choices, no algorithm curating your beliefs, no trend dictating your voice, just you. Fully responsible, fully awake, fully free. Most people will never know what that feels like, but some will. A few will break away. A few will walk that path of no master. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Musashi walked that path until the day he died. Alone, yes, but never lost. A life without a master is not a life without direction. It's not aimless. It's not chaos. If anything, it requires more structure, more clarity, more discipline than a life that is dictated by someone else. Because when no one is telling you what to do, it becomes your responsibility to know exactly who you are and how you choose to live. That's why Musashi, despite rejecting all external control, followed a path more strict, more intentional, and more focused than most people ever imagine. He had no master, but he did have a code. Musashi's code was not a list of rules passed down from a teacher. It wasn't inherited from a religion or dictated by a political authority. It came from direct experience, from trial, from discipline, from solitude. It was forged like a sword, through fire and pressure and repetition. Near the end of his life, Musashi wrote it down in a short but powerful document called the Dokodo, which translates to the way of walking alone. It contains just 21 lines, no explanations, no fluff. Each one is a sharp blade, not for cutting others, but for carving away everything false in yourself. These precepts are not easy. They are not designed to make you feel good. They are designed to wake you up. Take this one. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. In a world built around chasing comfort, entertainment, stimulation, this hits hard. What would it mean to live not by the pursuit of pleasure, but by the pursuit of growth? To do things not because they feel good, but because they make you better. Musashi isn't saying pleasure is evil. He's saying if it becomes your compass, you will be lost, because pleasure is fleeting. It doesn't anchor you, it distracts you. And distraction is the enemy of self-mastery. Another line, accept everything just the way it is. This is not passivity, it's presence. It's the radical act of seeing reality clearly, without flinching, without resistance. Most people waste their energy fighting what already is. They argue with the moment, they drown in denial, blame, or fantasy. Musashi's code tells you, stop, accept, begin there. Only from acceptance can true action emerge. Only from clarity can strategy be born. The world doesn't bend to your preferences, and it doesn't need to. You bend to the moment like water, like a sword in perfect alignment with the fight. And then there's the most difficult one of all. Do not fear death. That's not a metaphor. Musashi faced death dozens of times. In duels, in war, in isolation. But to not fear death is to live fully. It's to stop holding back, to stop delaying your truth. When death is no longer your enemy, life becomes your ally. You act, you speak, you walk your path without flinching. Most people aren't living, they're avoiding dying. Musashi flipped that. He lived with death in his awareness, and because of that, he lived wide awake. Now here's the challenge for us. What do you stand for when no one is watching? Not what do you believe, but what do you live by? There's a difference. Beliefs are easy. You can agree with a quote, you can nod at an idea, but a code, a real personal code, is something you practice, something you hold to when it's inconvenient, when it hurts, when no one is rewarding you for it. A code is the structure you build around your soul so that when the world shakes, you don't. Musashi didn't have followers or mentors or status, but he had that. A spine made of principles, a way of being that didn't change with the weather. And that's something anyone can choose, if they're willing to do the work. So, how do you begin to build your own code? Start simple. Sit down with a blank page, not a phone, not a screen, something you can feel with your hands. Write this question at the top. What do I stand for? And don't rush it. Don't write what sounds good, write what's true. What would you do if no one could see you? If there was no applause, no criticism, no reward? What would you do if the only person you had to impress was your future self? Next, write the lines that define you. They don't need to be elegant. They don't need to match anyone else's. They just need to be yours. Maybe your code is, speak truth, even when it costs me. Or, show up every day, especially when I don't want to. Or, do not waste time. It is my only currency. You don't need 21 lines like Musashi. Start with 3, but make them real. And most importantly, live them. Living by a code doesn't mean you become rigid. It means you become reliable to yourself. When life gets chaotic, you don't need to guess how to act. Your code guides you. When you're lost in emotion or doubt, you return to your principles. Your code is your anchor in the storm. And when the world tries to seduce you with comfort, distraction, or conformity, your code is what keeps you sharp. And yes, it will cost you. Living by a code might mean saying no to opportunities that don't align with your values. It might mean walking away from people who don't respect your path. It might mean long nights where you question if it's worth it. But the reward is rare. You'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I know who I am. This is what it means to walk the Ronin path. Not just to walk alone, but to walk honestly. To live without a master, but never without discipline. To reject control, but never reject responsibility. The world is full of people drifting. People who change shape depending on who's watching. People who believe in convenience, not conviction. But you don't have to be that. You can live by your code. And when you do, the noise fades. The doubt fades. The need to explain yourself fades. Musashi's code wasn't for followers. It was for him. That's why it worked. That's why it lasted. Because it wasn't performance. It was practice. And the invitation is there for all of us. You don't need a sword. You don't need a cave. You just need to decide that you're done living passively, that you're ready to write your own rulebook and live it. So grab the page, ask the hard questions, and begin, not tomorrow, now. Because the longer you wait to define who you are, the more the world will try to do it for you. Being alone doesn't mean being unprepared. Walking the path of a Ronin is not just about solitude, it's about readiness. Not just breaking free from control, but developing the strength to face whatever comes your way. The Ronin doesn't escape the world, he simply meets it differently, with stillness instead of panic, with clarity instead of chaos. This inner state is what made Miyamoto Musashi so dangerous, so effective, and so legendary. He didn't just master the sword, he mastered the warrior's mind, a way of thinking and being that allowed him to face conflict, uncertainty, and change with unshakable calm. Musashi didn't thrive because the world around him was calm. Far from it. He lived during one of Japan's most unstable eras, a time of civil war, shifting allegiances, political upheaval, and endless violence. But in that chaos, he stood still. While others clung to rank or tradition for safety, Musashi relied on something deeper, his mind. He trained it relentlessly. Not just to calculate strategy or technique, but to remain clear when everything around him was falling apart. That kind of presence isn't natural. It's earned. And for Musashi, it came through a concept deeply rooted in Zen. Mushin, no mind. At first glance, no mind sounds like emptiness, like thoughtlessness. But it's the opposite. Mushin is not the absence of thought. It's the absence of clutter. It's what remains when fear, doubt, hesitation, and ego have been stripped away. In Mushin, you are fully aware, fully present, but not distracted by the voice in your head second-guessing your every move. There's no script, no rehearsed plan. You just act, immediately, correctly, intuitively. That's why Musashi was so unpredictable in battle. He didn't follow form, he followed flow. He responded to what was, not what he wished would happen. Think about that in the context of modern life. Most people are mentally scattered. When stress hits, they panic. When something unexpected happens, they freeze. They need time to adjust, to think, to analyze. But the Ronin can't afford hesitation. Whether in a duel or in daily life, delay is defeat. Mushin is about training your mind to be as sharp as your weapon. It's about being ready, not with a plan, but with a mindset that can handle anything. And that's not limited to warriors. In fact, it's more useful now than ever. To cultivate Mushin in modern life means learning how to stay composed in discomfort. When plans fail, when people disappoint you, when life throws the unexpected, do you spiral or do you adapt? Musashi's strategy was simple: stay calm, observe, respond. He didn't get attached to outcomes. He didn't panic when the situation changed. He flowed like water but cut like steel. His power wasn't just in what he did, it was in how he did it, with presence, with poise, with total self-command. This idea aligns closely with Stoicism, another philosophy built on facing life's chaos without flinching. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the warrior's mind, not the ability to control the world, but the ability to control your response. Seneca put it this way: "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." In other words, our fears are often illusions, projections of a mind that hasn't been trained. But Musashi and the Stoics shared this insight. A prepared mind doesn't fear hardship, it welcomes it, because hardship is where strength is refined. Musashi trained not just in swordsmanship, but in painting, calligraphy, sculpture, and strategy. Why? Because he knew that the way is broad. As he famously said, "If you know the way broadly, you will see it in all things." He wasn't just learning to fight, he was learning how to move through the world, with grace, with awareness, with mastery. Every discipline became a mirror for his mind. Whether holding a brush or a blade, he was practicing the same thing: calm focus, pure action, no hesitation. And this is something we can practice too. You don't need a sword to train like a warrior. You don't need a battlefield to prepare your mind. Everyday life is full of small duels, moments of stress, conflict, fear, temptation. How do you respond? Do you react emotionally, impulsively? Or do you observe, breathe, and respond with intention? That's the practice. That's Mushin in motion. Start with your morning routine. Start with how you respond to criticism. Start with how you handle delay, discomfort, or disappointment. These are the perfect training grounds for cultivating stillness. Stillness doesn't mean inaction. It means clear action, deliberate action. Action that comes from choice, not compulsion. The Ronin doesn't suppress emotion, but he's not ruled by it either. He feels everything, but lets nothing control him. That's the paradox of the warrior's mind: fierce but calm, fluid but grounded, alone but never lost. In a world addicted to reaction, the Ronin stands out because he responds. In a culture driven by performance, he is real. In times of panic, he is the eye of the storm. And this isn't just poetic, it's practical. The more you cultivate stillness, the more you win in relationships, in work, in purpose. Because you're not chasing, you're not running, you're ready. Musashi faced death more than 60 times and never lost. Not because he was the fastest, not because he was the strongest, but because he remained still inside. His enemies swung swords, but Musashi read minds. He anticipated, adjusted, acted, no wasted movement, no noise, just presence. That kind of composure comes from one place, knowing yourself. That's the root of all readiness. If you know who you are, what you value, what you're willing to endure, then the world can't shake you. That's why Musashi always trained alone. He didn't need anyone else to tell him what to do. He didn't rely on anyone else's strategy. He didn't borrow strength. He built it. Day by day, choice by choice, breath by breath. So how do we build the warrior's mind in our world? First, stop outsourcing your peace. Don't wait for the world to calm down so you can feel calm. Train your nervous system to stay grounded no matter what. Cold showers, silence, physical practice, intentional breathing. Second, eliminate distractions. The mind needs space to settle. You can't think clearly in a room full of noise. That includes digital noise. Cut it, reduce it, protect your attention like it's sacred, because it is. And third, face challenge deliberately. Don't avoid it, seek it. Musashi didn't sharpen his sword once and call it a day. He put himself in the fire over and over, because that's how clarity is forged. A Ronin is not reckless, he's razor sharp, and he knows that clarity under pressure is not a talent, it's a habit, it's a choice. Every time you stay grounded instead of panicking, you become more powerful. Every time you listen instead of reacting, you become more dangerous, in the best way. Stillness is your superpower, and in a world full of noise, it makes you unstoppable. You don't need to wear robes or carry a sword to walk the path of the Ronin. You don't need to retreat into a mountain cave or swear off modern life. The Ronin path isn't about living in the past. It's about living with principle in the present. It's about stripping away what's false and building a life that's yours, deeply, honestly, deliberately. And while the world around us has changed since Musashi's time, the core struggle remains the same. Will you follow the script handed to you, or will you write your own? Most people today aren't bound to a feudal lord, but many are still serving masters, invisible ones, social approval, career status, financial anxiety, constant comparison, cultural trends. These pressures are more subtle now, more sophisticated, but just as powerful. They shape what we chase, how we speak, what we believe, and what we avoid. The modern Ronin doesn't just reject these blindly, he sees them, and he chooses something better, a path of intention. A life not built by algorithms or groupthink, but by clarity, solitude, and self-respect. You don't need to become a monk or a minimalist overnight. You don't have to disappear or start shaving your head. You just have to start choosing. You have to make small, consistent choices that move you toward authenticity and away from conformity. The modern Ronin walks with his own rhythm, no matter how loud the world gets. He knows that it's not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's alignment. It's remembering who you are when everything around you is trying to make you forget. Let's make this practical. First, reject blind conformity. That doesn't mean rejecting everything, it means questioning everything. Why do you want what you want? Who gave you your definition of success? What would you do with your life if no one was watching? These aren't rhetorical questions, they're tools. Use them to examine your work, your routines, your relationships, anything that feels like it was handed to you. Dig into it. Keep what's real. Let go of what's just noise. Second, choose solitude. Not all the time, but enough to hear yourself think. Enough to separate your voice from the voices around you. We've talked about this before, but in the modern world, solitude is a radical act. Take one day a week where you disconnect. No phone, no distractions, just you, a notebook, maybe a walk. It's not about escaping others, it's about reconnecting with yourself. That's where clarity comes from. Not from scrolling, but from silence. Third, build your code. We already covered this in depth, but here's where it meets your daily life. Once you've written your code, even if it's just 3 rules, live by it every day. Make it visible. Tape it to your mirror, carry it in your wallet, recite it in the morning. A code is not a decoration, it's a compass. When things get hard, and they will, that code reminds you how to move forward, with integrity, with clarity, with discipline. Fourth, live light. Musashi traveled with almost nothing, not because he had to, but because he wanted to move freely. In a modern context, this doesn't mean selling all your things. It means asking, what's weighing me down? What's cluttering my space, my mind, my heart? What subscriptions do you never use? What social obligations drain you? What ideas are you holding on to that no longer serve who you're becoming? Let go, simplify, travel lighter, physically, emotionally, mentally, because freedom isn't found in excess, it's found in clarity. Fifth, stay adaptable. The Ronin didn't have a fixed role in society. He had to stay sharp, learn quickly, move when the situation demanded it. That's a valuable mindset in a world that's constantly shifting. Jobs change, technologies evolve, the world moves fast. The Ronin isn't rigid, he's resilient. He doesn't panic when things break. He recalibrates, learns, adjusts. He knows that survival favors the flexible, not the fixed. Sixth, learn from hardship. Musashi embraced discomfort as a training ground, and in your life, pain is part of the process. That doesn't mean you go looking for suffering, but when it comes, and it will, use it. Let it refine you. Every difficulty is a mirror, every failure is a teacher. Don't numb it, don't run. Meet it with stillness, with breath, with the question, what is this showing me? Because sometimes the obstacle is not in the way, it is the way. Seventh, train the mind. If you don't, someone else will. In a world of endless content, information is cheap, but wisdom is rare. Start reading again, not just scrolling. Read philosophy, read fiction, read anything that stretches your mind and feeds your spirit. And write, journal daily, even just a few sentences, not for perfection, for reflection. This is how you understand your thoughts instead of being ruled by them. And finally, detox your attention. You cannot live like a Ronin if your mind belongs to your screen. You can't train stillness if you never put down your phone. Digital detachment doesn't mean deleting everything. It means controlling your inputs, set boundaries, turn off notifications, limit what you consume, choose signal over noise, create more than you consume, because attention is energy, and energy is life. Don't give it away freely. These practices aren't just suggestions, they're tools. Sharpen them daily. Use them to build a life of presence, integrity, and freedom. Because the truth is, your job is not your identity. Your followers are not your worth. Your productivity is not your soul. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to become yourself. And that takes courage. That takes solitude. That takes clarity and the willingness to stand alone. But here's the thing no one tells you. Standing alone doesn't mean being alone. The more you walk your path, the more you'll begin to recognize others on theirs, quietly, humbly, with eyes that understand. They won't be many, but they'll be real, and that's enough. The Ronin doesn't walk for applause, he walks for truth. So take a moment right now, breathe, ask yourself, where am I still performing? Where am I still following instead of choosing? What needs to be let go and what needs to be built? Write it down, sit with it, let it sink in. The modern Ronin doesn't need a battlefield to fight. He's already in one, inside his own mind, inside the pressure to conform, inside the noise that drowns clarity. And every day he chooses presence over panic, purpose over distraction, the real over the easy. That's the way, and you can walk it too. At the end of his life, Miyamoto Musashi didn't seek a grand stage. He didn't gather admirers or hold a final duel to seal his legend. He didn't crave one last victory. Instead, he retreated, as he always had, into solitude, into stillness, into silence. In a cave called Ragando, Musashi sat down with a brush and left behind his final gift to the world. His thoughts, his truth, his code. He didn't leave us trophies or riches. He left clarity. The last thing he gave to the world was wisdom, because that's what he had truly mastered. He died alone, but not empty. Quite the opposite. Musashi died full of experience, of principle, of intention, full of himself in the best possible way, not inflated by ego, but complete because he had given himself entirely to the path. He didn't hold back, he didn't delay, he didn't waste his life waiting to be understood. He walked the road most avoid, the road of solitude, of truth, of radical ownership, and he walked it all the way to the end. There's a kind of freedom that only comes when you live like that, when you stop chasing what others think you should be, when you stop measuring yourself by borrowed metrics, by how many people clap, or how much money you've made, or how closely your life resembles the blueprint sold to you. Musashi reminds us that the point isn't to win the game. The point is to see through it, to realize that you were never meant to play someone else's version of success. You were meant to write your own rules and follow them completely. Most people spend their lives trying to be understood, to be accepted, to be approved of. But there's something more important than being understood, and that's being true. The truth is often quiet. It doesn't make you popular. It doesn't always get you likes or applause, but it grounds you. It makes your life yours. And in the end, that's what matters. When everything else is stripped away, status, possessions, reputation, what remains is who you chose to be. Walking alone doesn't mean being lost. It means forging the map yourself. It means waking up and asking not what should I do, but what's real for me. It means building your life from the inside out, not the outside in. It means risking the loneliness of not fitting in exchange for the peace of belonging to yourself. It's not always comfortable. In fact, it rarely is. There will be times you feel misunderstood, times you feel like the world is moving in one direction and you're quietly walking in the opposite. That's okay. That's part of the way. The Ronin doesn't walk to impress. He walks to become. He walks not because the path is easy, but because the path is right. Musashi wasn't waiting for the perfect moment to begin. He wasn't hoping for the world to understand him first. He wasn't building a brand or trying to go viral. He was too busy living, sharpening, practicing, writing, refining. He knew something that we often forget. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who are awake, more people who are grounded, honest, courageous, people who don't just talk about the path, they walk it. Step by step, walk the 1,000-mile path. That's what Musashi told us. Not rush, not arrive, just walk, step by step, day by day, with presence, with discipline, with heart. And that's the real call here, not to become someone else, not to escape life, but to show up for your own life fully and to keep walking even when no one's watching, even when the rewards aren't immediate, even when it's hard. So let me ask you now, as we close this journey, what master are you still serving? Is it fear? Is it the past? Is it a job title? A relationship? An image of who you think you're supposed to be? What's keeping you from walking your path? The one you know is yours? It doesn't take a dramatic gesture to begin. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow or move to a mountain. You just need to start paying attention. Start noticing where you're compromising. Start noticing where your actions are out of alignment with your values. Start listening to the voice you've been silencing, the one that's been asking you for something real. Maybe that voice is asking for simplicity. Maybe it's asking for solitude. Maybe it's asking for the courage to say no to something that doesn't feel right, even if it looks right on paper. Whatever it is, listen, and once you've heard it, act. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly, step by step, one choice at a time. That's how the 1,000-mile path is walked. That's how it's always been walked. Musashi didn't start out a master. He started out a boy with a wooden sword standing alone. But he kept walking, he kept refining. And in the end, he became one of the most disciplined, fearless, and grounded human beings history has ever known. Not because he followed orders, not because he chased applause, but because he stayed true to himself, to the path, to the code he wrote with his own hand. And that's what you're being asked to do now. Not to be Musashi, but to be you fully. Start your Ronin journey today by questioning what no longer serves you, by aligning your choices with your deepest values, by listening to the still, small voice inside you that knows the way. You don't need a master. You just need to choose the truth over comfort, stillness over panic, discipline over distraction. Because when you do, you won't need to be told where to go. You'll know, and you won't need to be carried. You'll walk, step by step. And one day, like Musashi, you'll look back and realize you didn't just walk the path, you became it. Have you ever looked at a cracked vase or a weathered stone and seen something inexplicably beautiful? What if I told you that there's an entire philosophy dedicated to appreciating the imperfect, the impermanent, and the incomplete? This is the heart of a uniquely Japanese outlook known as Wabi Sabi, and today we're going to explore how this ancient wisdom can dramatically change how you perceive the world and your own life. Wabi Sabi is not just an aesthetic, it's a way of life that embraces the beauty of nature's flaws and life's unpredictable journey. It stems from the serene and profound realms of Zen Buddhism, which appreciates the ephemeral nature of life. This philosophy teaches that there is elegance in simplicity, richness in the modest, and depth in the details that time leaves behind. Why should this matter to you? Imagine living in a world where your scars, your fears, and your flaws are not just accepted, but celebrated as marks of genuine existence, symbols of a life well lived. That's the promise of this philosophy. It offers a perspective where the pressure to achieve perfection is not only unnecessary, but counterproductive. In our pursuit of perfection in everything from our jobs to our social media profiles, we often lose sight of what truly enriches our lives. By integrating this philosophy into your everyday life, you can find greater satisfaction, not by adding more to your life, but by appreciating what you already have. This philosophy can transform mundane experiences and objects into sources of joy and contemplation. It teaches you to find the stories and beauty in a chipped cup or a fading photograph, seeing them as cherished markers of time and experience rather than things in need of replacement. Today's exploration will not only explain the roots of this fascinating philosophy, but will also provide you with actionable ways to incorporate its principles into your daily practices. By the end of this video, you will see how embracing imperfection can lead to a fuller, more authentic life experience. We will delve into how this philosophy challenges the relentless pursuit of perfection in modern culture and offers a peaceful alternative that celebrates the cracks and crevices both in our pottery and in ourselves. You might wonder how something as simple as appreciating a weathered piece of wood can impact your life significantly. This is where the subtle power of this concept lies. It shifts your focus from what things are supposed to be to appreciating them for what they are. This shift in perception can reduce stress and increase your emotional well-being. Moreover, Wabi Sabi is deeply intertwined with the Japanese tea ceremony, a practice that epitomizes this philosophy through its rituals and focus on the present moment. The ceremony itself is a dance of mindfulness, where every movement and piece used is a celebration of imperfections, collectively creating a harmonious and meaningful experience. This tradition underscores the idea that beauty and satisfaction can be found in the most transient of moments. If you're ready to shift your perspective and find beauty in the most unexpected places, stay tuned. This isn't just about learning a new philosophy, it's about transforming how you live by changing the way you see the world. And it starts with embracing the art of perfect imperfection. The art of perfect imperfection. Wabi Sabi teaches us that beauty is an evolving process, a reflection of the ebb and flow of life. This philosophy originates from a worldview deeply rooted in Zen Buddhism, which emphasizes simplicity, authenticity, and the transient nature of all things. The principles of Zen teach that enlightenment can be achieved through meditation, insight, and an understanding of the impermanence of the world. This Japanese tradition also significantly influences the traditional tea ceremony, a practice that encapsulates the essence of mindfulness and acceptance. The tea ceremony, known as chanoyu, involves a ritual preparation and presentation of matcha, powdered green tea. It is an art form that prioritizes process over outcome, where every step and every tool used is an embodiment of appreciation for the fleeting moments that define our existence. In the context of this philosophy, beauty is not found in the flawless or the eternal. Instead, it is seen in the cracks, the wear, and the natural cycle of growth and decay. This perspective teaches us to look beyond conventional beauty standards, to see the allure in a withered leaf, the elegance in an aged wood's grain, and the story in a chipped ceramic bowl. Each of these imperfections is a testament to a history, to a life lived, and to the natural forces that shape and influence everything in the universe. Moreover, the concept of this philosophy was never meant to stand still but to flow and change with life itself. It suggests that beauty is dynamic and ever-changing, and our understanding of beauty must evolve with it. By embracing this philosophy, we learn to appreciate the richness of life as it is now, without clinging to past ideals or future expectations. This notion of finding beauty in the here and now is an integral part of Zen teachings, which assert that the present moment is all we truly have. Thus, this philosophy and its integration into the Japanese tea ceremony serve as profound reminders of the transient nature of our existence. They encourage us to live more fully, to appreciate the temporary beauty that surrounds us, and to cultivate a sense of peace about the world's inherent imperfections. By learning to appreciate these elements, we open ourselves to experiences and aesthetics that defy the conventional, broadening our perspectives and deepening our engagement with the world. This philosophy is more than just an aesthetic criterion. It is a pathway to a deeper understanding of life and our place within it. It challenges us to reconsider our relationship with nature, objects, and each other in a way that promotes authenticity and harmony. This philosophy not only enhances our appreciation for art and design, but also deepens our respect for the natural world and its capacity to teach us about beauty, resilience, and the inevitability of change. Embracing imperfection. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. This profound insight invites us to consider a crucial aspect of the Japanese philosophy we've been discussing, the acceptance of imperfection. Unlike modern Western culture, which often strives for an unattainable ideal of flawlessness, this Eastern philosophy encourages us to see the beauty and value in the flawed and incomplete. This approach does not just apply to physical objects, but extends to our self-perception and interactions with others. Consider for a moment the immense pressure many people feel to present a perfect facade, whether it's in their academic achievements, social media profiles, or even in their physical appearance. This pursuit of perfection can lead to significant stress, anxiety, and a never-ending feeling of inadequacy. The contrast with the philosophy in question couldn't be more stark. Here, the inherent beauty of an object or person is often attributed to its unique imperfections and the story these imperfections tell. This acceptance can foster a more compassionate and realistic self-image, enabling individuals to appreciate their own uniqueness without the relentless pressure to conform to societal ideals. Furthermore, the impact of societal pressure on individual well-being and self-esteem is substantial. In a world that often values perfection, the constant comparison to idealized images and standards can lead to diminished self-worth and a chronic sense of failure. This is where the philosophy of embracing imperfections becomes not just a philosophical concept, but a practical approach to healthier living. It teaches that the marks of wear and tear are not signs of unworthiness, but are evidence of a life fully lived. This shift in perspective can relieve the psychological burden of needing to appear perfect, reducing anxiety and depression, and promoting a more balanced and satisfied state of mind. In addition, this philosophy promotes resilience. By understanding that everything is subject to change and decay, individuals can become more emotionally and mentally flexible, better able to cope with the challenges and setbacks that life inevitably brings. This resilience is crucial in a society that often hides its vulnerabilities, showcasing only success and concealment of failure. Embracing imperfection, therefore, is not just an aesthetic choice, but a profound life-affirming stance that encourages acceptance, growth, and a deeper engagement with the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. Thus, this philosophical approach offers a powerful antidote to the modern obsession with perfection. By realigning our perceptions with the realities of nature and existence, it helps cultivate a more genuine, fulfilling approach to life. It challenges us to redefine beauty, success, and value in terms that recognize the dignity of the natural and the unfinished. This can lead to a more authentic, liberated way of living that celebrates the inherent worth of every individual and every moment, just as they are, without the relentless pressure to polish, perfect, or perform. Finding beauty in the imperfect. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. This evocative statement perfectly captures the essence of finding beauty in the imperfect and understanding how the philosophy we've been discussing nurtures this perception. This perspective encourages us to see the marks of time and use not as blemishes or defects, but as features that tell a story and add character. Let's consider how nature itself is the master of this kind of beauty. When we look at the natural world, we see that it is full of imperfections. Trees are gnarled, rocks are asymmetrical, and coastlines are irregular. Yet it is precisely these imperfections that make the landscape breathtaking and unique. The appreciation of natural aging, or the patina of time, is evident in how we perceive old trees with twisted branches, whose rugged forms speak of resilience and survival. Similarly, weathered stones smoothed by rivers or the sea tell of the relentless force of nature and the passage of time. These elements do not detract from their beauty, rather they enhance it, providing a texture to our visual and tactile experiences that polished new surfaces cannot. In the realm of art and aesthetics, this philosophy is vividly illustrated in practices such as kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with lacquer mixed with precious metals like gold or silver. Instead of hiding the damage, kintsugi emphasizes it, creating a new form of beauty that acknowledges and respects the object's history. Each crack is highlighted, not hidden, transforming what might be considered a flaw into a striking feature that tells a story of breakage and repair, of life and recovery. Similarly, the asymmetry in traditional Japanese gardens is a deliberate effort to mimic the sporadic, unplanned beauty of nature. These gardens are designed to lead the eye on an unstructured journey through contrasting textures and uneven landscapes that mimic the natural world, promoting meditation and mindfulness. They are a reflection of the world as it is, not a manicured version of how we might want it to be. This design philosophy can teach us to appreciate the beauty in the uncontrolled and unplanned, encouraging a more accepting and open view of our own lives. Understanding and embracing this view can significantly affect how we perceive the world and ourselves. It teaches us to value the present moment and find beauty in the now, despite its imperfections, rather than constantly striving for a more perfect future that may never come. This philosophy helps cultivate a sense of inner peace and satisfaction, recognizing that beauty is everywhere, in every crack and imperfection, if only we learn to recognize and cherish it. By embracing the idea that flaws can contribute to beauty, we become more accepting of our own imperfections and those of others. This can lead to a more compassionate society, where the pressure to be perfect is lessened, and individuals feel more valued for their unique traits and histories. This shift in perspective is not just about aesthetic appreciation, but about fostering a kinder, more inclusive approach to life that celebrates diversity and resilience in the face of life's challenges. Embracing transience. The beauty of life is in its impermanence. Embrace the dance of change. This powerful quote invites us to consider the often overlooked virtue of transience, an essential aspect of the philosophy that celebrates imperfection and impermanence. This perspective challenges us to rethink our relationship with the temporary nature of life itself. Life is a series of moments, each fleeting and unique, much like the cherry blossoms that bloom spectacularly but briefly each spring in Japan. These blossoms are revered not despite, but because of their short-lived beauty, which symbolizes the transient nature of life. Impermanence in this philosophical context teaches us that everything in life, our joys, sorrows, challenges, and triumphs, is temporary. This can be a comforting thought, especially during difficult times, as it reassures us that pain and hardship are not permanent. Conversely, it also reminds us to cherish the wonderful moments, knowing they too will pass. This dual awareness can profoundly shift how we live our daily lives, encouraging us to live more fully in the present, engage more deeply with our experiences, and appreciate the here and now rather than always looking ahead to the next thing. Moreover, accepting impermanence helps us navigate life's inevitable changes more gracefully. Consider the seasons. Each brings its own challenges and joys, and just as winter gives way to spring, difficult times eventually give rise to better days. By embracing this cycle, we learn not to despair during downturns, or take good fortune for granted when times are favorable. This balanced approach to life's ups and downs fosters a more stable and grounded existence, reducing anxiety about the future and regrets about the past. the philosophical implications of embracing transience are vast. It challenges the very way we think about existence, urging us to reconsider our fears of death and loss. By acknowledging that life is a temporary journey, we can reduce the existential dread that often accompanies thoughts of our own mortality. Instead, we can focus on making the most of our time, forming meaningful relationships, and creating a positive impact in the world. This shift not only enhances our own well-being, but also encourages us to leave a legacy of kindness and mindfulness for others to follow. Embracing transience also influences our approach to joy and sorrow. Understanding that both are transient can alleviate the pressure to maintain a constant state of happiness and allow us to experience sadness or disappointment without being overwhelmed. This acceptance creates a more emotionally rich and balanced life, where negative emotions are seen as natural and necessary parts of the human experience rather than something to be avoided or suppressed. The acceptance of life's impermanence, as highlighted in this philosophy, offers a more fulfilling way to live. It teaches us to embrace change, appreciate the moment, and accept the ebb and flow of life's experiences with grace and gratitude. By doing so, we can transform our understanding of life and death, joy and sorrow, and learn to navigate the complexities of human existence with greater ease and insight. This perspective encourages us not just to endure life's changes, but to actively engage with them, finding beauty and meaning in the dance of change. Power of simplicity. In simplicity, there is truth. This insightful quote captures the essence of cultivating simplicity, a principle that is central to the aesthetic and philosophical tenets of the Japanese philosophy we've been discussing. This approach to life emphasizes the importance of stripping away the non-essential, focusing instead on the core elements that truly matter. In an age where consumerism and digital overload often overwhelm our senses and clutter our minds, the call for simplicity becomes increasingly vital. Simplicity in this context is not just about minimalism in design or possessions, it's about cultivating an inner clarity and prioritizing life's essential values. This philosophy teaches that true beauty and satisfaction derive from a deep appreciation of the basics, whether in art, in nature, or in our daily routines. By reducing the extraneous, we make room for the truly important aspects of life to flourish. For example, a simple, unadorned pottery piece that bears the marks of its maker can be more appealing and meaningful than a perfectly mass-produced item. This preference for simplicity extends to personal lifestyles as well, encouraging practices that focus on authenticity and a deep connection to one's environment and community. The benefits of decluttering and simplifying life are manifold. On a practical level, reducing physical clutter in our homes and workspaces can lead to a clearer mind and reduced stress. Numerous studies have shown that excessive belongings can create a sensory overload, whereas clean and orderly spaces can help calm the mind and improve focus. But decluttering isn't just about tidying up physical spaces. It's also about simplifying our schedules, commitments, and even our digital lives. This process helps us prioritize activities and relationships that truly enrich our lives, allowing us more time and energy to engage deeply with them. On a deeper level, simplifying life can lead to significant emotional and psychological benefits. It allows for greater self-reflection and a clearer understanding of one's desires and needs. Without the constant distraction of new items or the pressure to keep up with social trends, individuals can develop a stronger sense of self and a more grounded existence. This clarity can enhance one's relationships and overall life satisfaction, as decisions are more likely to be aligned with personal values and long-term goals. The cultivation of simplicity as taught by this philosophy is not merely an aesthetic choice, but but a profound lifestyle decision that can lead to a richer, more fulfilling life. It challenges us to rethink what is truly necessary and what brings us genuine joy and peace. This minimalist approach doesn't mean living without luxury or comfort, but rather making more conscious choices that align with core principles of authenticity and sustainability. By embracing simplicity, we learn to appreciate the abundance of less and find greater depth and meaning in our everyday lives. Wabi Sabi in daily life. Enjoy the little things in life, for one day you may look back and realize they were the big things. This closing quote beautifully summarizes the essence of incorporating the principles we've discussed into daily life. It's about recognizing and savoring the beauty in the mundane, the imperfection, and the transient moments that often go unnoticed but cumulatively define our existence. Let's explore some practical ways to bring this philosophy into our everyday routines, emphasizing mindfulness and the acceptance of life's natural flow. One practical tip is to start each day with a moment of appreciation. Before the rush of daily responsibilities begins, take a few minutes to notice and appreciate something simple around you, perhaps the way morning light filters through your window, the texture of your breakfast, or the sound of the birds outside. This practice helps cultivate a habit of mindfulness, which can extend throughout the day, enhancing your awareness and appreciation of your surroundings. Another way to embrace these principles is through the art of journaling. Keep a gratitude journal where you regularly record things you're thankful for, especially those small imperfect details that might typically go unnoticed. This could be a note about a pleasant conversation, the unique way your coffee spilled and created a pattern, or how you felt reading a book. Journaling not only serves as a reminder of these moments, but also encourages a positive mindset that focuses on beauty and appreciation. Additionally, simplifying your living space can be a transformative step. Declutter your environment to keep only those items that have meaning or serve a purpose. This doesn't mean your space should be sparse or devoid of decoration. Rather, let each item around you be something that resonates with personal significance, tells a story, or brings joy. This might mean repairing and keeping an old, comfortable chair that's seen better days because it holds numerous memories, rather than replacing it with something new but impersonal. In terms of accepting the natural flow of life, practice letting go of the need for control. This can be applied in small everyday contexts, like not fretting over a change in plans or a project that didn't go perfectly at work or school. Recognize that these deviations are part of life's impermanence and can lead to unexpected joys or learning experiences. Moreover, encourage yourself and others to find beauty in small, everyday moments and objects. This could be practicing photography with your phone or a camera, focusing on capturing images of everyday life in unusual, insightful ways. Photograph the way shadows play on a busy street, the smile of a friend, or a meal before it is eaten. Photography can be a powerful tool to observe the world in a more detailed and appreciative way. Lastly, engage in activities that slow down your pace and allow you to enjoy the process of creation. This could be anything from gardening, where you witness the slow but rewarding process of growth and decay, to cooking, where you can appreciate the colors, textures, and flavors of ingredients. Each activity offers unique imperfections and challenges, providing opportunities to embrace and celebrate the unexpected and the transient. By integrating these practices into your life, you gradually shift your focus from seeking perfection to appreciating the beauty in imperfection. This not only makes your daily life more fulfilling, but also aligns your actions with a deeper philosophical appreciation for life as it is, enhancing your overall well-being and contentment. Remember, it's the small, seemingly insignificant moments and details that often weave the richest tapestries of our lives. Embracing this can transform ordinary days into a series of meaningful experiences, rich in beauty and satisfaction. In today's journey through the philosophical landscape of embracing imperfection, we've explored the rich tapestry of a philosophy that finds profound beauty in the flawed, the impermanent, and the incomplete. We began by introducing the idea, deeply rooted in Japanese culture, that there is elegance and depth in the naturally occurring imperfections around us. This principle, derived from Zen Buddhism and embodied in practices like the Japanese tea ceremony, teaches us to appreciate the beauty in the now and the authenticity of weathered objects and transient moments. We discussed the concept of embracing imperfection, where we contrasted the often unattainable standards of modern society with the acceptance and celebration of flaws as markers of true existence. This perspective not only challenges the relentless pursuit of perfection, but also offers a more compassionate and realistic approach to viewing ourselves and the world around us. Further, we delved into the aesthetic appreciation of natural aging and decay, as seen in weathered stones, cracked pottery, and the asymmetry of traditional Japanese gardens. These examples illustrate how the imperfect and the impermanent can stir a deeper connection to the beauty of the natural world and our own lives. We also considered the philosophical implications of impermanence, embracing the transient nature of life, which helps us appreciate every fleeting moment and reduces the existential weight of our everyday struggles. By acknowledging that life's experiences, both joys and sorrows, are temporary, we cultivate emotional resilience and a balanced perspective on the ups and downs of our existence. Moreover, we highlighted the virtue of simplicity, which aligns with this philosophy in promoting a life focused on the essentials. Simplifying our environments and routines can lead to a clearer mind and a more fulfilling life, allowing us to focus on what truly matters: relationships, passions, and personal growth. Incorporating these principles into daily life, we offered practical tips like practicing mindfulness, simplifying one's space, and finding joy in the small everyday details. By doing so, we learn to live more authentically, fully embracing the present and finding contentment in the imperfections that define our unique journeys. Remember that the journey to appreciating imperfection doesn't require us to abandon our aspirations or stop striving for improvement. Rather, it invites us to redefine what it means to live a successful, beautiful life. It encourages us to find balance and beauty in the natural flow of life, accepting imperfections not just as a part of life, but as a fundamental component of its inherent beauty. As you step forward from this video, take a moment to reflect on the imperfections in your own life. Whether it's in your relationships, your achievements, or your everyday surroundings, consider how these imperfections might not be shortcomings but stories and symbols of a life richly lived. Embrace these as not just inevitable but as valuable. And remember, in the dance of change, in the ephemeral and the imperfect, there lies a profound beauty and a reminder of our shared human experience. Let this philosophy not just be a topic of fascination, but a lived, breathing part of your everyday life. Cherish the cracks, for they are where the light enters, revealing the true beauty of our imperfect world. Imagine waking up each morning with a burning passion, a clear purpose that propels you out of bed, invigorating every part of your day. Now contrast this with those days when you feel aimless, stuck in a rut of laziness, where even the simplest tasks seem monumental. What makes the difference? Today we're diving into an ancient Japanese philosophy that holds the secret to transforming your life from the latter to the former. Welcome to the world of Ikigai, a path to finding your unique purpose and overcoming the chains of laziness. In our fast-paced modern world, it's all too easy to fall into the trap of laziness. We've all been there, those days when motivation seems like a distant memory and our goals feel out of reach. But what if I told you that this pervasive sense of lethargy could be more than just a lack of willpower? What if it's a symptom of a deeper issue, a life devoid of true purpose and direction? My journey with laziness has been a personal battle. I remember days when I felt like I was walking through a fog of apathy, where even my passions seemed dull and uninteresting. It was a cycle of procrastination and guilt, and it seemed impossible to break free. But then, I encountered a concept that changed my perspective: Ikigai. This Japanese philosophy, which translates to a reason for being, is a convergence of what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. It's about finding the sweet spot where your passions and talents meet the needs of the world. This video is not just about combating laziness in the traditional sense, it's about a deeper transformation. We're going to explore how finding your Ikigai can reignite your zest for life, providing you with a clear direction and a renewed sense of purpose. It's about shifting the focus from what you should be doing to what you truly want to be doing. We'll start by delving into what laziness really is. Is it a lack of discipline? Or is it possibly a signpost, pointing to a life that's out of alignment with your true desires and potential? We'll explore the psychological underpinnings of laziness, looking at why our brains sometimes prefer inaction to pursuing our goals. From there, we'll journey into the heart of Ikigai. I'll share the origins of this life-affirming philosophy and break down its 4 key components. This isn't just a theoretical discussion. I'll guide you through practical exercises to help you identify your own Ikigai. We'll explore how to weave these insights into your everyday life, turning them from abstract concepts into a living, breathing part of your daily existence. But finding your purpose is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you start to apply it to overcome laziness. We'll discuss how having a clear purpose based on your Ikigai can fuel your motivation and energy levels. You'll learn how to set goals that resonate with your Ikigai, and I'll share strategies for incorporating daily habits that align with your newfound purpose. Of course, no journey is without its challenges. We'll tackle the common obstacles you might face while pursuing your purpose and provide practical solutions to overcome them. This includes balancing your professional, personal, and social life, and adapting your Ikigai as you grow and evolve. The final part of our journey will focus on living with this philosophy. It's about making a long-term commitment to a life that's in harmony with your purpose. We'll talk about how to make life decisions, big and small, in line with your Ikigai, and the importance of continually reassessing and adapting your path. In essence, this video is an invitation to explore a deeper dimension of yourself, to reconnect with your passions, and to align your life with a purpose that energizes and fulfills you. It's about breaking free from the shackles of laziness, not through sheer willpower, but through the discovery of your unique meaning. Laziness is a term we often hear thrown around, but what does it truly mean? Commonly, laziness is perceived as an unwillingness to act or work, a kind of inertness that grips us. However, this surface-level understanding fails to recognize the complex web of factors beneath. To truly tackle laziness, we first need to differentiate it from its benign cousins, relaxation and fatigue. Relaxation is a conscious choice to rest and rejuvenate. It's an essential process that allows our minds and bodies to recover from the stresses of daily life. Fatigue, on the other hand, is a state of physical or mental exhaustion. It's a signal from our bodies or minds that we need to rest. Laziness, distinct from these two, is often a symptom rather than a choice or a signal. It's not about the need to rest, but rather about a reluctance to engage despite having the capacity to do so. From a psychological standpoint, laziness can be a complex interplay of various factors. One primary factor is a lack of motivation. When our goals don't seem compelling or rewarding, our drive to achieve them naturally wanes. This lack of motivation might stem from not having clear goals, not seeing the value in the goals we have, or simply feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of the tasks at hand. Another critical psychological factor is the fear of failure. Often, we avoid starting tasks because we're scared of not succeeding. This fear can be deeply rooted in our past experiences, self-esteem issues, or societal pressures. It creates a paralyzing effect where the possibility of negative outcomes overshadows our potential for success. Procrastination, closely linked to laziness, is another aspect worth exploring. It's a coping mechanism where we delay tasks to avoid discomfort or unpleasant emotions associated with those tasks. This can create a vicious cycle. The more we delay, the more daunting the task seems, and the less inclined we feel to tackle it. The impact of chronic laziness can be far-reaching. On a personal level, it can stunt our growth and development. When we consistently avoid challenges or shirk responsibilities, we miss out on opportunities to learn new skills, build resilience, and develop a sense of accomplishment. This stagnation can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction and a lack of fulfillment in our personal lives. In relationships, chronic laziness can create tension and conflict. When one person habitually avoids responsibilities or puts minimal effort into the relationship, it can place an unfair burden on others. This imbalance can lead to resentment, a breakdown in communication, and ultimately strained relationships. Professionally, laziness can severely hinder career progress. In the workplace, a lack of initiative and effort can translate to poor performance reviews, missed promotions, or even job loss. In the broader scope, if a significant portion of a population succumbs to chronic laziness, it can impact societal progress and innovation. Understanding these facets of laziness is crucial in addressing it effectively. It's not about chastising ourselves for being lazy, but rather about understanding the underlying reasons and addressing them. By doing so, we can unlock a more productive, fulfilling, and purpose-driven life. Ikigai, a term that has no direct equivalent in English, originates from the Japanese island of Okinawa, often referred to as the island of longevity. This concept, deeply ingrained in Okinawan culture, intertwines with their lifestyle and is considered one of the reasons behind their remarkable longevity. This term combines two Japanese words, iki, meaning life, and gai, which roughly translates to worth or value. Together, it signifies the value of being alive, the joy and purpose one finds in life's pursuits. It's about discovering what makes life worth living for you as an individual. In Okinawan culture, this isn't just a pursuit for the young or the ambitious. It's a lifelong journey that continues well into old age, evolving and adapting with time. In the broader Japanese philosophy, Ikigai is viewed as a convergence of four primary elements, each representing essential questions that guide us towards finding our unique purpose. Let's delve into these four dimensions. What you love, your passion. This dimension urges you to explore your passions and interests. It's about asking yourself, what activities make me feel happy and fulfilled? These are activities that you're naturally drawn to, that you can immerse yourself in for hours without feeling the passage of time, the things that you would do even if you weren't getting paid. 2. What you are good at, your vocation. Here, the focus shifts to your skills and talents. What are the things you excel at? These could be skills you've developed over the years or innate talents you've always possessed. It's about recognizing your strengths and how they can be applied in various aspects of your life. 3. What the world needs, your mission. This dimension extends beyond the self and looks at your role in the larger context of the world. It involves considering how your passions and skills can meet the needs of others. What can you offer that will contribute positively to society or your community? It's about finding a sense of purpose in serving others and making a difference. 4. What you can be paid for, your profession. The final dimension addresses the practical aspect of life, making a living. It asks you to consider how you can monetize your passions and skills. However, it's important to note that Ikigai doesn't imply that you need to turn every passion into a career. Rather, it's about finding a balance where your work provides financial stability and personal fulfillment. The intersection of these 4 elements is where this term lies. It's that sweet spot where your passions align with your talents, meet the needs of the world, and can sustain you financially. Finding your Ikigai means you're not just existing but living a life filled with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. However, discovering your Ikigai is not an overnight process. It's a journey of self-exploration, trial and error, and introspection. It requires you to be honest with yourself, to explore different areas of your life, and to be open to the evolving nature of your purpose. As life changes, so too might your purpose, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to stay attuned to your inner self and the world around you, continually seeking alignment between what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. The journey to uncovering your purpose begins with an in-depth self-exploration. This process involves introspection and reflection across the 4 dimensions of Ikigai: what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. 1. Exploring passions, what you love. Start by listing activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. These could be hobbies, interests, or anything that you find deeply satisfying. Ask yourself, when do I feel most alive? Or, what activities make me lose track of time? It could be anything from cooking, painting, or writing, to more abstract things like problem solving, helping others, or organizing. 2. Assessing skills, what you are good at. Next, focus on your talents and skills. Reflect on feedback you've received from others, moments when you felt a sense of achievement, or tasks you find relatively easy and enjoyable. These could range from specific skills like coding, teaching, or public speaking, to more general skills like empathy, critical thinking, or creativity. 3. Identifying needs, what the world needs. This dimension requires you to think beyond yourself and consider how your abilities and passions could meet the needs of others. Reflect on the issues or needs in your community or the world that resonate with you. Education, healthcare, or even more localized issues in your community. 4. Considering earning potential, what you can be paid for. Finally, think about how you can monetize your passions and skills. This doesn't mean turning every passion into a job, but rather finding a way to sustain yourself while doing what you love. Are there existing professions or niches where your passions and skills intersect? Could you create a new path or business idea based on these? Once you have a list for each dimension, the next step is to find overlaps, which is where your potential Ikigai lies. Look for intersections between what you love and what you are good at. This is often where your passion and vocation intersect. Then, see how these can align with what the world needs and what you can be paid for. Creating a visual map or a Venn diagram can be incredibly helpful in this process. Place each of your listed items in the corresponding circles and look for overlaps. The center, where all 4 dimensions intersect, is your Ikigai. However, Remember that Ikigai is not always found at the perfect center. Sometimes it might lean more towards one or two dimensions, and that's perfectly fine. To illustrate, let's look at some examples. Example 1. Imagine someone who loves painting, passion, has developed a skill in digital graphic design, vocation, sees a need for compelling visual communication in social campaigns, mission, and finds opportunities to work as a freelance graphic designer, profession. Their Ikigai lies in the intersection of these elements, using their artistic skills and passion for meaningful visual storytelling to contribute to social causes while earning a livelihood. Example 2. Consider someone passionate about cooking, passion, particularly skilled in nutrition and healthy eating, vocation, recognizes a growing need for dietary education in their community, mission, and can earn by offering cooking classes or nutritional consultancy, profession. Their Ikigai could be educating and helping others to eat healthily and deliciously. Remember, finding your purpose is a personal and often evolving journey. It might require you to step out of your comfort zone, learn new skills, or even rethink your career path. It's about trial and error, learning about yourself, and being open to where life takes you. Having explored how to find your Ikigai, we will next discuss how this powerful concept can be used to overcome laziness, fuel motivation, and guide you in setting meaningful goals that align with your life's purpose. Building on the foundation of discovering your purpose, let's now explore how this profound concept can be a catalyst in overcoming laziness. The key to overcoming laziness lies in finding a purpose that resonates deeply with your inner self. This is where this philosophy shines. When you discover your Ikigai, you uncover a source of motivation that is intrinsic and self-sustaining. Unlike external motivators such as money or recognition, intrinsic motivation comes from within. It's driven by an interest or enjoyment in the task itself, and it's far more powerful in inspiring action and perseverance. A clear purpose gives you a reason to get up in the morning, a direction that excites and fulfills you. It transforms "I have to" tasks into "I want to" activities. When you engage in tasks that align with your purpose, work doesn't feel like a chore. Instead, it becomes a meaningful pursuit. This shift in perspective is crucial in combating laziness, as it's not about pushing yourself to act against your will, but rather being pulled by a deeper, internal drive. Setting goals that align with your life meaning is essential for maintaining this intrinsic motivation. These goals act as stepping stones, guiding you along the path of your life meaning. Here are some tips for setting purpose-aligned goals. Reflect on your purpose. Revisit the 4 dimensions of your Ikigai and use them as a compass for setting your goals. Ensure that your goals resonate with what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what can sustain you. Set specific and meaningful goals. Vague goals are less likely to inspire action. Make your goals specific, clear, and connected to the essence of your Ikigai. Balance aspiration with realism. While it's important to aim high, ensure your goals are achievable. Unrealistic goals can lead to frustration and demotivation. Break larger goals into smaller, manageable tasks to maintain momentum. Incorporate short-term and long-term goals. Short-term goals provide immediate motivation and a sense of achievement, while long-term goals keep you aligned with your overarching purpose. For example, if your Ikigai is to teach, a short-term goal might be to complete a teaching certification, while a long-term goal could be to open your own educational institute. Regularly review and adapt your goals. As you grow and evolve, so might your Ikigai. Regularly reflect on your goals and adjust them as needed to ensure they remain aligned with your life purpose. Moving forward in our journey, it is crucial to translate this concept into actionable steps in our daily lives. Implementing this concept is not just about identifying it, but living it, making it a part of every aspect of our existence. Cultivating passion and skills. Active engagement in passions. To live your Ikigai, actively engage in activities that you are passionate about. If you love painting, set aside regular time to paint. If you are passionate about music, dedicate time to practice or explore music. Active engagement means making these activities a non-negotiable part of your routine, not something you do only when you find spare time. Skill enhancement. Alongside nurturing your passions, focus on enhancing the skills that are integral to your Ikigai. This could involve formal education, online courses, workshops, or self-taught practices. For example, if your Ikigai involves writing, you might take creative writing courses or attend writers' workshops. Experimentation and exploration. Be open to experimenting with new ways to explore your passion and skills. This could mean trying new techniques, collaborating with others, or branching out into related areas. Experimentation keeps your journey towards Ikigai dynamic and exciting. Documenting progress. Keep a record of your progress. This could be a journal, a blog, or a digital portfolio. Documenting your journey not only serves as a motivational tool, but also helps you reflect on your growth and the evolution of your passions and skills. Balancing life's aspects. Work-life harmony. Balancing professional commitments with your Ikigai is crucial. If your current job doesn't align with your Ikigai, find ways to integrate aspects of your Ikigai into your job. Personal life alignment. Ensure that your personal life and relationships support and enrich your pursuit of Ikigai. This could mean setting boundaries to protect time for your passions or involving your loved ones in your journey. Social contributions. Part of Ikigai involves making a positive impact on the world. Engage in community activities, volunteer work. This not only enriches your own life, but also contributes to the broader community. Balanced routine. Create a daily routine that accommodates work, personal life, and activities related to your Ikigai. A balanced routine ensures that you are dedicating sufficient time and energy to each aspect of your life. Overcoming challenges. Dealing with doubt and fear. Pursuing your purpose, especially if it involves significant changes in life, can be daunting. When faced with doubt or fear, remind yourself of the reasons behind choosing your Ikigai. Reflect on the joy and fulfillment it brings to keep yourself motivated. Time management. One of the biggest challenges in pursuing life meaning is finding the time to do so. Effective time management, such as prioritizing tasks, eliminating unnecessary activities, and possibly waking up earlier or reallocating leisure time, can help create space for your Ikigai activities. Financial considerations. If pursuing your Ikigai involves financial risk, like starting a new business or changing careers, plan carefully. This might include saving up a financial cushion, seeking part-time opportunities, or starting small while you transition. Seeking support. Don't hesitate to seek support. This could be from family, friends, mentors, or a community of like-minded individuals. Support networks provide encouragement, advice, and sometimes practical help. Resilience in the face of failure. Not every attempt to pursue your life purpose will be successful. It's important to develop resilience and view failures as learning opportunities. Reflect on what didn't work, adjust your approach, and try again. Overcoming the challenges on this path, such as dealing with doubt, managing time effectively, navigating financial implications, and building resilience against failures, is integral to living a life driven by Ikigai. Remember, the pursuit of your life goal is not a destination but a continuous journey of growth and self-discovery. By adopting these practical steps and maintaining a balanced approach, you can cultivate a life that resonates deeply with your inner values and passions, ultimately overcoming the inertia of laziness and living a life brimming with purpose and fulfillment. Let's take a moment to reflect on the key insights we've uncovered. We embarked on this journey by understanding the concept of laziness, not as a simple lack of effort, but as a complex phenomenon often rooted in a lack of purpose or direction. We unraveled the intricate Japanese concept of Ikigai, a beacon of inspiration that blends passion, vocation, mission, and profession into a harmonious life purpose. We delved into the practical aspects of discovering your purpose, guiding you through self-exploration exercises, helping you identify the convergence of what you love, what you excel at, what the world needs, and what can sustain you financially. We discussed how this profound understanding can counter the inertia of laziness by providing intrinsic motivation, a motivation that emanates from the very core of your being. Our journey then led us to integrate Ikigai into everyday life, emphasizing the need to actively cultivate your passions and skills, balance various aspects of life, and confront challenges with resilience. By embracing these principles, you can transform your daily routine into a reflection of your deepest desires and aspirations. As we conclude, I want to encourage each one of you to embark on this rewarding journey to discover and live your Ikigai. It's a path that promises not just an antidote to laziness, but a blueprint for a fulfilling and meaningful life. I urge you to take the first step, no matter how small, towards uncovering your unique purpose. Reflect on your passions, evaluate your skills, consider your contribution to the world, and find a way to sustainably weave these into your life. I invite you to share your thoughts, experiences, or your journey towards finding your life meaning in the comments below. Let this be a space for inspiration, where we can learn from and support each other. And if you found value in this video, please subscribe for more content that aims to enrich your life and awaken your true potential. Remember, the pursuit of life purpose is not just about reaching a destination. It's about savoring the journey, with all its ups and downs, its revelations and challenges. Your Ikigai is a living, evolving essence of who you are, constantly guiding you towards fulfillment, joy, and an unshakable sense of purpose. So take the leap, embrace the journey, and let your Ikigai illuminate the path to a life well lived.